Greetings, family. This is Jonathan, and I am finally doing this because the most recent time I was able to log on, and I have not been able to log on to the internet so easily, so consistently recently. But Brother Big Levi asked me to send a message and said it was time to share with the nation what I shared with him roughly a year or so ago. So with that, I'll give you guys a few disclaimers. Number one, I give Big Levi permission to use this audio or video, whichever form it's in, for his YouTube channel. The other one, there's some people in here, so I'm talking kind of quiet because this is personal, and I'm hiding out, but my voice might be a little low. The other one is the real insecurity. What I'm going to share, most of it is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I have no way of proving it. But the large portion of the big part of what I want to share is unbelievable. I can't back it up by scripture necessarily. People say test it and all of that. I did a test and it failed, right? I did it about 3 times, it failed. But there's still something that I rather trust what I felt, what I saw, what I heard over all of my nonsense, because that's what will make me feel comfortable from people I might share this with. And just so you know, I haven't shared this with anyone really. Even when I shared with Big Levi, I left out so much. So it's only been about 3 people I've been told something about this. And the other disclaimer is, forgive me, this will be rather long because it's a journey, and even though it has something in there that's been heavy for me to handle, all I can tell you is I have no need to lie to you. I have no need to, I'm not looking for popularity, fame, clicks, views. I'm not looking to appear to be greater than I am, I'm not looking to do anything whatsoever except for what I've been doing. So with that being said, I really hope you listen to the full, it would definitely be more than an hour, but I'll do my best to rush through it so I won't keep you so long. But you know what, to be honest with you, I'm hard on myself with this, but I just long for somebody else to have it won't be the same story, but I just would love to listen to another person's story, because feeling alone or in the wilderness or all these different kinds of things, isolated, separated, you kind of reach for something. So as I want to rush through it, maybe that's cheating the process, because just like I wish there was somebody who I can identify with, because I haven't found anybody that have a similar story. And again, it won't be similar in specifics, but just kind of I can understand and understand what I'm saying. I don't think I'm schizophrenic or crazy, because one person incredibly close to me said, "Man, I don't believe anything you say. I think you're schizophrenic." And that was hard to take, but I looked into that even. I looked into everything people will possibly say. And to get to this point here in 2023, where a dear brother who I feel is fantastic and honest asked me to share, I feel like even though I have not really a hesitation, it's almost like a big ball of nerves. I don't know why, because I know our people. I know so many people will reject what I'm saying or poo-poo it or say something negative, and something so sensitive. It's scary to share, but I waste your time for this amount of time, 4 minutes already. My gosh, I haven't even started, because I want to give you all the disclaimers that I can to let you know I have no need to lie to you, even though I cannot prove most of the stuff I'm sharing as far as the spiritual parts. Here we go. So I have to start a little bit backwards in order to tell you all the details of what's happened thus far. So I'll start my life off at the end of 2011. A little earlier than that, actually. I think around 2010, I decided to get rid of my television. And you're probably like, why are this story's going to be so long? But it might be so long, so forget it. Listen to it or don't. I've got to get over this nervousness for how people will receive this. Around 2010, I called my mom and said, man, I'm getting rid of my TV. And the reason I did that because I was down to like one of my last goals. And I've been goal-driven my entire life. And so I wanted to have a film studio. I wanted to write books. I wanted to do cartoons. I wanted to make movies. I wanted to do all these different kind of things. And I wrote this list of goals out in like middle school, high school. And I was like really young. And I basically had accomplished mostly all of my goals. So 2010, I started getting the bug to write a book. And one of my favorite formats is poetry. I'm not some great poet, or I don't know all the poetry prompts and all of that, but it's just a natural way that I like. It's kind of like tap dance. I feel like tap dance is just a beautiful art form of dance, and poetry is like painting with words. So I really like that format. So around 2010, I decided, you know what, it's time for me to write a book. And I got rid of my TV, and I started focusing on the book. Around that same time, just in case you guys don't know, I was working in Hollywood my entire adult life, working just in the production world, doing a little bit of everything from writing to editing to filming to all the things that you can do creatively. I was working on them, and I was fortunate to work with some really incredible people at the top of the list, from Steven Spielberg to Jerry Bruckheimer, and so many fantastic people I had the great opportunity to work with. And in the beginning, when I first got to LA, you know, LA is based off nepotism and all of that type of good stuff. So, well, it's not really based off of that, but that's a big part of it, though. I came without anybody really in it. So I really started from the bottom for real. Shooting things for free, shooting things for $100 a day, all these different kinds of things you got to go through. So I went through that. And around 2010, 2011, it started to pay off. I was about 11, 12 years in. And all of the things I was doing and working really hard at everything I was doing, like stuff started happening for me where it wasn't such a struggle. Now I had producers calling me for, and again, when I say money, this is not bragging. There's people much richer than me. I'm not using the money as something to brag about. That's not it, but I'll say it for a reason. So I went from making like nothing to $100 a day, right, in the beginning. And then around 2010, 2011, that's when, well, actually a little earlier than that, actually a lot earlier than that, so several years before that, I started having enough friends that was producers, and I started filming all kinds of things, from the Grammys red carpets, the Oscars red carpets, all these different, if you know anything about Hollywood, you know the award season, like it's so many parties, there's so many things happening, and so you just, you're just running around and you're hitting the carpet for an hour, but each hour I'm getting paid like $1,000, right? And so I'll do like 3 or 4 events in one day. And so this is just an example of how it went from somewhat a financial struggle, even though I just love the arts, to suddenly I'm making a lot doing basically nothing, but everything I'm doing is only what I love doing. So it started rolling for me where I never wanted to be the richest person in the world. I went into the arts because I truly love the arts. That was it. It wasn't for the celebrity part. It wasn't for the fame part. Like everybody I could meet. This is true. I could meet, like I've actually met them. Like I actually met, like for example, Barack Obama, when he's the first sitting president to be on a late show, right? I was there, right? I was there because I have a producer friend who was producing for Jay Leno. And so I was there, was able to see the president, meet the president. And actually, the funny thing is, I would never forget this. One of my friends lives in Jerusalem, and she goes back and forth Well, at the time, she was, and this is one of my good friends, and so she was literally in Jerusalem. She got back. She was like, JJ, you met the president? I'm like, yeah. Like, how you know? You were not even here. Like, yo, I saw it on TV in Israel, right? And it was that I got a kick out of that because forget the politics. It was so great to be around that energy. That was the first time in my life. All these historical people you hear about, you read about. That was the first time in my life I felt like a part of something that, forget the politics, forget what you think about Barack, good or bad. There's little kids, melanated kids, boys, girls, all this who know most of their lives, right? They only saw a president who looked like them. And that's the part that I really enjoyed. And so my point is, I was able to meet and do things with any and everybody you can think of. So it was around the time I'm writing my book, I started feeling like, this is cool. I'm making money. It's not a struggle anymore, the money part. I can meet anybody. I'm doing all these major events. I really love the arts. But it was something that was making me feel like what I was doing had very little to no meaning, though. So as I completed my book, it was between 2010 and 2012 I finally published it. Well, I think it was published in 2011. But anyway, between 2011 and 2012, I published my book. It was called The Heart of It All, or it is called The Heart of It All. And I'm not saying it's the greatest in the world, but it was just like something great for me to write. And it's basically a love story to the creator and my mom and my siblings. It's something I felt great about doing. Well, it was January 2012, right? 2012. Boucher. It was January 2013. After I had done all these different things, I had my film studio. Me, a young brother who got a huge warehouse that I turned into a film studio in Reseda, without anybody really helping. I accomplished so many cool things that made me happy. And I had written my book, and I was actually pleased with my book. It was that moment that I was in the shower and I just started crying. I'm not ashamed to say that I did that, because that is the beginning of this journey that I'm on right now. The reason I started crying was I felt like, even though I'm not Spike Lee, I got my little niche, I got my little world I'm building, but like everything is starting to roll for me. It's no longer a struggle. I make a lot of money doing the little things. And again, I'm not bragging, but I'm just saying it in a way where, for me, my thing is not about money. I just don't like to count. Like anything I want to do, any place I want to go, I just want to be able to go. I don't like counting, meaning, I got a budget. No, I just want to have it to do whatever it is I want. And it's just me, single guy, don't have any other responsibilities, don't have any bad habits, such as like smoking or drinking or do these type of things. So I just save all my cash and I spend it on my own little productions, right? And so that's all I was happy with doing that. And when everything started rolling, I mean, I have this story. I can't tell all these stories, so many great stories. But like this one story when I thought I was going to be filming for Michael Jackson in the studio. Oh, that's a whole nother story. It turned out to be just Teddy Riley, but the point was, like, I was in the mix of stuff that me as a little kid, I really dreamt about. Many people say they dream about things, but I literally dreamt about certain things. And I was able to do all these amazing things for me, not bragging, just for me. So in that shower, I started crying because I felt like all the stuff I was doing, it actually had very little to no meaning. I have a great friend. Let's just call her Bathtub. That's my nickname for her. And but it's really just my friend, even though it's a female. It's just my really great friend. We're kindred spirits. So I was feeling like a little bummed out, and it was February. I went to her house in the Bizzle in Long Beach, and we were both like little kids. So we hung out, got something to eat, We're playing the piano. I can't play. She got like 3 songs she can play. We singing and banging on the piano and banging on some chords on a new guitar and just being like little kids. So she went in her room, went to sleep, and eventually I fell asleep on the sofa. This is in February 2013. When I fell asleep, I forget what time it was. Let's say 10, something like that. I know that's early, right? But it was that early. And suddenly I woke up, and it was like around 11:30-ish, 11:38 if I remember correctly. Because when I woke up, I checked my phone. You know, everybody got the phone attached to their hands these days, right? So it was like 11:38, and I woke up suddenly, and it was a vibration. Like, it was just this vibration, and I heard a voice talking to me out of the top left of my head, like top left. So yeah, you know, your ears or whatever. It's like a person is over here. It's not just like a voice. It's a full person talking to me. I can feel the energy and I can hear this voice as if you were listening to my voice. It's a real voice I hear. But here's the thing with that. I have been familiar with that voice. And I'll just say voice for now because I don't want to turn anybody off with I was talking to God and all of that. I just know this voice. It had a different message, but I'm familiar with it. So even though it was jarring to wake up with this feeling over me, it was jarring. I wasn't afraid. I really wasn't afraid. So I couldn't move. I was laying on my stomach on the sofa, and like my arms kind of acting as if they're the pillow, right? And so I'm laying on my arms and I can't really move. It's not really sleep paralysis. I had that before. Not the sleep paralysis type of feeling. But I just can't move and I don't want to move. And so I'm listening to what's being said. It's clear. It's crystal clear. And this is what I hear. Leave and go to another country. That's a quote. Leave and go to another country. Now, I must admit right here, right now, when I heard leave and go to another country, I did not hear China. And I'm going to say China right now because to jump ahead, but that's where I ended up going. But let's back up. So I hear leave and go to another country. So that was part one. The second major thing I heard was this word, ayahuasca. Now, leave and go to another country. After I finished listening to this dominant voice, and like I said, even though it was jarring and I wasn't really afraid, like I'm really hearing a voice like in my head, like I'm hearing this. It's happened before, but you just can't poo-poo that. Even if it happened 100 times in a row, it's still, I hear someone talking to me, clear as day. So I remember, this might sound extreme. I felt such creative energy. I'm not stoned or something, right? I actually wrote a movie script on my phone because I couldn't fall asleep. So after that happened, I stay up and I'm waiting for the day to break because I just got to figure out what this was. But I didn't want to disturb the house because like bathtub is sleeping. It's a small place. So I'm just quiet and I just started writing something. So on one of my phones, there's a script, right? It's a movie script on one of my phones I wrote that night. True story, man. So when I woke up, the first thing I thought about was China. And let me tell you why I thought about China. Many of us brothers around my age, we probably remember Kung Fu Theater. It probably still come on now. I just been out of the loop for such a long time now. It was like Saturday nights or something like that, Kung Fu Theater. And I love Li Xiaolong. Bruce Lee is Li Xiaolong. That's his actual name. So I absolutely loved watching Kung Fu. My two brothers, my sister would go to my grandma's, my two brothers, my mom would leave us 20, we get a pizza and we sit there with the babysitter and we're watching Kung Fu Theater, even though the babysitter is the same age as my big brother, right? So anyway, I always had a fascination with that. And one of my loves is drawing. I love drawing. And since I was little, I loved drawing. I would go underneath the desk and just draw pictures of different things. Well, in in the beginning, when I first started drawing like little scenes, it was always like a kung fu scene, me kicking a bunch of people, I'm knocking all these people out. But the homes I would draw, the little buildings I would draw, were all hutong. And hutong is like the old-fashioned. When you think of China old-fashioned, you see the buildings. It's kind of like a triangular at the top, and it's like curled up at the bottom, from the roof. Actually, that represents God, believe it or not. The top part is like God, and then the water's flowing down to everyone at the bottom. The blessings are flowing down. That was really interesting for me to find out. But I will always draw hutongs as far as buildings. So I had a fascination with that part of China, but not thinking so deeply about China at the same time. Moving on to, like, my neighborhood was a diverse neighborhood, actually. So we have so many Asian people in my neighborhood. And brothers, we always got to go get the Chinese food, son. So I kind of grew up with so many different kinds of people from around the world. My 2 doors down was from Romania. 3 doors to my left was from India. So many Asian friends. And I just always been cool with everybody. So as I moved on to college, like I had a bunch of friends from just Asia in general, from Korea, from Japan, from China. But even with all of that, I didn't have an idea that I would go to China or definitely move to China. But when I heard that boys go to another country, that's the first, and I can't even say first, that's the only place I thought about. There was nothing else. There was nothing else. And so it felt natural for me to just go there. The word ayahuasca, that's a whole nother story. I never heard of the word. Now let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm not some square. I'm the coolest dude in the room. I'm the most fun dude. I'm the wildest dude. But I don't drink. Like now I'm in China. Like sometimes I'll drink pijo. Pijo is beer. I don't like beer, but sometimes I do it. When in Rome, do what the Romans do. Sometime. But the first drink I ever had was on my 26th birthday at Universal in the Valley in Los Angeles. That's the first drink I ever had. I'm not a drinker. I never smoked a cigarette. I don't smoke weed. I don't do any kind of anything. And again, that doesn't label a person square. It's just I never did that. I was always an athlete, and I always took care of my body and wanted to be clean because people were looking at me. And I remember some of these things that people tell kids actually are great, because I remember I was always a captain of teams and all of that. And a coach told me one time, JJ, you're in the fishbowl. And when he told me that stayed with me to this day. It's why I just shared it with you right now. And what that meant was all these different little brothers, they looking at me. Even though I don't think I'm some professional player or all this type of stuff, to another kid who admires me, I am that person. And so I took that seriously. And so I never did anything illegal. I just never did anything like that in my whole life. This is not to brag or to prove something. This is just who I am, But that don't make me some square dude. It's just I chose not to do that. I tell you that part of the story because when the word ayahuasca comes, and when I find out what it is, it's impossible for me to know this word. That's like, to you it might be nothing, but to me it's something because I'm in a circle, a really tight circle, because I only want to be successful. I only want to be great. So I do not hang around people who do things that's too wild for me, or everybody can do what they want, but the people who I consider friends and close, no matter what they do, they basically are all reaching for something really successful. And so I don't know anybody who's doing all kinds of stuff. Not that I don't know them. Let me rephrase that. That's not my circle. Those are not my friends. That's not who I am. So all kinds of things that would be considered like illicit or a drug or psychedelic and all these different kind of things, maybe I've heard of them, but I don't know anything about that life. I've never been a fake person. Somebody can tell me, here go a whole bunch of stuff, go sling it. I know nothing about that life because I chose not to know nothing about it. So I don't know. So I hear this word ayahuasca and I spell it wrong initially. All I know is I and Ya. I just know Ya was in there, right? So I got the first 4 characters, right? The first 4 letters. But then the rest of it, I spelled it wrong. But even though I spelled it wrong, when I typed it into, I remember the first thing I typed in maybe was Google, but the thing that I found that out from was YouTube, right? It was one night, I just kind of like tapped out, was on my bed, and I just was going through it. I started listening to people tell stories about this ayahuasca thing, and I was like, wow, this is so incredible. Like, I really understand what they're talking about, and this is interesting to me. And how could I hear this word, and then I look it up? I don't know anything about it, but it identifies with me. But here was the one negative. I did not research China. Just to jump ahead. I did not research ayahuasca. Even though I checked it out, I was not researching it. The voice, the vibration that spoke to me is so trusted, is so knowing, is so familiar. Even though it's jarring, I didn't question it at all. My thing was just, what is it? That's all it was. I didn't know. It could have been a tree. It could have been a shoe. I didn't know at all what this thing was whatsoever. So I wasn't researching. I was figuring out what it is. That's really important in my journey. I didn't question it at all. So I'm going through it, and then I started kind of getting into it. I was like really listening to different people, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. When I decided to do it, it was a couple things that were kind of, I had to clear from myself. One was, in America, it's considered illegal, right? And I've never done anything illegal. If I was in a situation, I'm doing something and it's illegal, I would be uncomfortable. So the setting already would be off, because me, I know for sure, because I don't do illegal things, I wouldn't have been comfortable. I found out that in South America and in some other places, it's legal. So, bam, right there. I'm already knowing that I'm going to South America. I lived in Mexico before. I can speak a little Spanish, all these different kind of things. So I'm like, okay, the first is Brazil and all this. But the first place I felt comfortable with was Peru. So now I'm looking into it, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go. So I reach out. The place has a different name now. Same beautiful people. Different location, because they were getting flooding too much. Maybe I'll share the link later, but I'll refrain from saying their name right now, because I'm not looking to promote anybody. But if you guys want to know where it is, I trust this place with all my heart and soul. So if you do want to know, if you do want to go, you do want to find out something, this does reach out to you, I'll be glad to share their information, because they're beautiful people. The people who run it, they're not indigenous to Peru, but it doesn't matter. The people who's doing the ceremonies and everything, they are. But I'll talk more about that in a minute. So I say, okay, I'm going to go to Peru. I dig through a couple places. I narrow it down to 3 places. It's definitely one of the places felt like a money grab. It was not so much about all the spiritual things you can get from it, all that. I'm not saying that they don't focus on it, but the focus I felt was like a money grab. So I didn't feel comfortable with that. Not that the money was a problem for me. I didn't want to feel like it's just a money grab. I wanted something to feel honest to me. And I needed to feel nurtured, because I never did anything remotely close to ayahuasca, right? Now let me tell you briefly about ayahuasca. So it's the chacruna leaf mixed with the vine from ayahuasca, and you boil it down. It start off with like 4 pots, and you boil it all down. You guys can check it out for yourself, and it comes to like this small little glass. It's like 4 huge pots of all this, and then you continuously condense it. It takes about 4 days to brew it, right? And it tastes like dirt, right? Little spicy dirt. I don't like black licorice almost. Like it's difficult to drink, but it's manageable. So it gets down to this thick, earthy brew, and the chacruna leaf and the ayahuasca vine, they come together to give you the visions and all these different kinds of things. And so I needed to have the setting right, so I chose Peru. The other thing was, I never did anything right. And then when I first started not researching, but just finding out about it, I found out that this was one of the most potent psychedelics. They called it a psychedelic, right? Most potent drug. They even used the word drug and psychedelic. And I had a problem with that because, again, I've never done drugs in my life. Never. Ever, ever. I've never done drugs. So I had a problem with that title. But what made that just kind of erase for me is the voice that told me about this. So I didn't carry any of that baggage. I just said, I do need to be honest to myself, though. One of my dear friends, I'll say her name because it doesn't matter, Serena, she's a yogi. She's into all kinds of meditation and yoga and like these modern day hippie type world. So this is one of my friends from my health club. I knew her for a decade. I don't know that she does that, but she was the only person that I thought I can talk to that I know that may have done mushrooms, right? Because when I was learning about ayahuasca, it was like people were talking about this and they were talking about mushroom, this. So I was like, okay, well, I'm sorry. Let me step back. I didn't talk to her about mushrooms. She told me, and let me tell you why. So I call her and I say, Serena, I found out about this. I'm planning to go to Peru and do ayahuasca. She's like, ayahuasca? She's like, have you done anything before? I was like, no. Have you smoked? No. Have you done mushroom? No. She was like, this is one of the most potent things. Like, you're going to go from 0 to 100? And I didn't get so in depth into what made me do this, but I just said, I trust that it's calling me. So all the hesitation that I might have, or that I've never done anything even remotely close to this is something I got to do. And then she suggested, okay, JJ, listen, I think you should do mushrooms first, right? And I'm listening to her. She makes a valid point. She's like, you can do this first and then move to ayahuasca. And I had to gracefully bow out of that and say, I didn't get a call to do mushrooms. There was like no workup. This is what I heard. This is what I got to do. And at the time, I'm still thinking this must be some drug, and I have a problem with that, right? I just, not judging anyone else who do partake in anything, not that part. Me, I've never done anything. So even the next hurdle is my mom. Like my mom, I'm a son who's, all her kids not into anything. But I took pride in, I never did anything. I don't even take medications. I don't take medications at all. So I took pride in that I've never done any kind of drug. So the last hurdle was to just be honest with my mom. I know I'm an adult, but it's still, my whole life was, I gotta do the right things all the time. And so I talked to my mom. I explained to her about the voice. I explained to her about the word that I heard. I explained to her that I searched for it. And I explained to her what it represented. I explained to her that the people call it a psychedelic/drug. I explained to her why I need to go ahead and do this. And my mom was kind of okay. And my mom was really hard on me. I can be 90 years old, my mom would still be hard on me. But she was okay. So it was at that moment I was clear. Back to the China portion. I gotta share this again. I'm sorry that this will be long, you guys, but if I share my truth, I think it might help somebody else, because I'm not afraid to do this, but I'm really nervous about doing it because it's so personal, and it's so crazy, but I gotta share it. And so forgive me that it's a little long. And if I stop saying forgive me for it, maybe it'll be shorter. How about that, JJ? But anyway, so back to the China portion. So remember, this is February when I'm at my friend Baptub's house and I hear all of this, and this all starts to happen. At the time, I was doing really well in Hollywood. In February, that's like award season, so it's starting. There's so many things going on, and I'm just loving what I'm doing, and it's easy now. Like, it's not a struggle. Like, people are calling me, and it's a lot of money for a little bit of time, and I'm getting better at what I'm doing, and people are. I'm building my little name, and people respect that name. So it started to become easy. after I heard China, I decided, okay, I'm going to go to China. Now, here's a quick little thing. I'll run through this quickly. My entire life, my mom wanted me to be a professor or a teacher. I didn't have a problem with that. My whole life, I've been teaching here and there, even in Hollywood, even in high school. When I was playing basketball, I was always teaching somebody something. It's natural for me. I didn't run from that. But I didn't want to do it my whole life. It's so many artistic things I wanted to do. And if I had listened to my mom, I wouldn't have played basketball well. I wouldn't have, even my college experience would have been totally different. I wouldn't have went to LA. I wouldn't have went to New York. I wouldn't have done all these different kinds of things that I wanted to do. So I'm happy I didn't listen to her completely. But if I was going to teach, I could not teach in LA. I mean, I'm running around with 2 cell phones and I'm always running. I'm always doing something. I'm always on the grind. I'm always moving and moving and moving. I cannot slow myself down to be a teacher. Come on, man. Don't be ridiculous. So when China popped into my head, even though I hadn't been there, I was like, okay, many people teach abroad. Why not try that? Like, I don't need the money. I'm not going there for the money, but people pay you to teach abroad. So why don't I try that avenue? I reach out to a couple people because I know people in almost every area. I'm a producer, come on. So I find out what to do. I make a call, send an email, and then that was on a Wednesday. On a Thursday, I had an interview. On that Thursday, Wednesday is the first day I reach out. On Thursday, I have an interview online, a video interview, and I get hired to teach at this school at that moment. I will never forget and now this guy, I can't say we're friends, but we're definitely friendly. JJ, we like a you. That's the and so at that right after that, JJ, we like a you. Everything was sent: airplane ticket, housing information, what the school looks like, all of that. This is just not even so. When I heard the voice, that was a Saturday night. On Thursday, I'm already hired to teach at a school in Jonzstar, right? That's how I pronounced it because I don't know Pinyin. Pinyin is a way to read the Chinese characters, right? I don't know the tones and all that. So my Jonzstar is actually Zhengzhou, right? So I knew nothing about this place, but I still didn't research. I didn't research anything, so I didn't know where I was going on the map. I had no idea. These people could have been setting me up. They could have been doing anything. But to be real with you, this is not hindsight 2020 talk. This is the truth. I heard this voice that I trust so much that I thought it would be disrespectful to question and search all this stuff. I just said, okay. It's so many cool little stories and little nuggets within this thing I want to leave out, but some of them I can't. The book that I told you about, I came up with this gimmicky little promotion. The promotion, I live in LA. I live near, so if you know LA, you know Ventura Boulevard. I live right off Laurel Canyon and Ventura Boulevard. So that's a happening spot right there, right? So you're right, left to the left is Universal, to the right is Michael Jackson house, right? If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm right there. So I'm in the mix of everything. And I have a long list of people who I can reach out to for anything. And again, this is not to brag. This is just to show you what I'm talking about. So I did this not bogus, I'm just playing around, but it's a legit little promotion. It was like, buy my book. My book was like $4, right? And the ebook, buy my book. And I'll do a 1-hour photo shoot of you in the park. It actually worked. So many girls reached out to me to do a photo shoot. So they would buy my book, and then I'll do 45 minutes to an hour in the park, take the pictures, and give them the digital pictures. So it was these 2 girls. One of them looked like my cousin, and another one they look like they're new to it. You know the look of girls, 2 sisters, they new to it. The rich guys, the beautiful California, they got that look. But underneath their look, they look innocent. They look like they're just kind of, it's a facade. Like they're trying to act like they got it together. But underneath there, they actually don't. And I've been doing it long enough to understand that look. So as we're taking photos, they're on the phone and they're talking back and forth. And so I'm hearing what they're talking about. They didn't ask me for anything. They're not hustling me or nothing like that. So I hear their situation, and they're in a situation where they're living with some people that they don't know and all of this. So after I finished their photo shoot, and they actually came to see my apartment, because I said, look, I have an apartment. The rent is paid. I think the rent was paid up for 2 or 3 months. I love my apartment. It's small. It's not so big. It's not so many people. And my apartment is beautiful inside. It's simple but beautiful. It's just really relaxing and peaceful. So I was leaving, and I didn't know I was leaving for all this time. I thought I was going to go for 3 months, 6 months, or something, come back. Well, long story short, I say, look, I don't need anything from you guys, man. This is my apartment. Come check it out. And I talked to the management, and we did like this little sublease thing, which turned out to be bogus from the apartment's perspective. And I was like, everything is here, it's paid. You guys can stay in my apartment till I come back. They were so grateful. I didn't know these people at all. There's some negatives that came along with that at the end of the story, but I still feel good what I did. There's 2 sisters who now they have their own apartment with nobody taking advantage of them. I didn't want anything from them. I gave them everything that they need. The fully furnished is all my things. Some of it I regret I left in there because, people might not take care of your stuff, and there's some negatives that came along with it from their side, but I did a nice thing, and I can live with that, even with the negatives. So I gave my apartment to these 2 sisters who just came to LA, and they stayed there for another year or something. So right as I'm getting ready to leave, though, I have been working on doing this project with one of my absolute favorite performers. I don't know if I should say his name or something, but MJ is my absolute favorite, above any and everything, in any genre. That's my favorite. That's my guy. But there's some other people who I really like as well. And somebody's going to interrupt me soon. But anyway, I'll just say the name. The name is Rasan Patterson. And when I was in college, I had a radio show. And my radio show, believe it or not, is an underground hip-hop show. And even though it's an underground hip-hop show, it's a guy who I really, really like. And I like the style, I like the voice. And actually, I always liked the Kids Incorporated joint when I was younger. So I was really familiar with Rasan Patterson. Actually, even my family used to always watch Star Search. I remember watching him win on Star Search. So while I was in college, I first got hip to him, and then I moved on to LA, and I was like, I just like this artist because my niche had morphed into becoming a concert film director, just filming shows, because that's the thing I love the most, like filming concerts. And so I had been working with him for about 15 years. I mean, we're in the same, I see him at concerts. I go to some of his shows, and I get so many friends that's friends with him that I was actually in the mix. Like, I hung out at several houses for different holidays with all these great singers and playing cards and all these different kind of things, creating some kind of a relationship. So I wouldn't just be a nobody to this dude. Because he was a person, let me tell you why. To me, that kind of person was like the perfect person. Extraordinarily talented. I feel like he doesn't get as much credit as he may deserve. He's not as arrogant as many of the people who are super hot, because he's been doing it for a while, but he's not a superstar. But he's extraordinarily talented, and I felt like with some of my creative ideas, I could move that needle a little bit. So a person such as he was like perfect, in my opinion, for me to work with and do something really great, and then hopefully that will become cool and people will recognize my talent, but then that will move him ahead. So that's why I really zeroed in on him, because it was other people. And again, I'm not name dropping, but it was other people that I was cool with, that I could have did this with, but they became bigger stars. And like I would stop. I don't want to feel like I'm name dropping, but I will use his name for a reason. So right as I get ready to prepare to go to China, right as I'm getting ready to, I planned ayahuasca for, it would have been August 2014. That's what it ultimately became. And for China, it was immediate. They actually wanted me to come on that Thursday, which was in February, but I was like, it's too soon. But that night, this is true stories, that same night, I get a call, again, 11 something at night, and it's Rasan Patterson. And this is true stories, man. And he's like, yo, I'm ready to do something. And I'm like, yo. The first thing I do is call my mom. Like, yo, finally, I got this, right? So happy. But then I pause myself as I'm jumping around in my bedroom all by myself. I'm like, this could be a distraction for me, because I heard this voice tell me to go to another country. And suddenly this thing comes right now, and so I was struggling with, should I do it or should I not do it? Long story short, I did it. And actually, you can't see right now, but it's actually in my apartment right here. I never cut it. I never finished the project, but I shot the project. It was fantastic. I rented out a beautiful recording studio. He brought his pianist, and it was just the piano and either the piano and Rasan or guitar and Rasan. And I had a 4-camera shoot, and it was fantastic. But when I finished it, I said, man, this is a setup. I just cannot. I cannot let this great thing right here that I've been working on forever trump what I heard in my head, man. So I had to say, you know what? I just can't. I got to put this on the back burner. And I remember I told Rasan the same thing. I was like, look, man, I heard the voice of God talk to me. And so I gotta just go to China. He was like, yo, you going to China right now? Like, after all this time you've been knocking on the door, and you get an opportunity to let's do something. And I filmed it. I filmed the project, but I didn't work the project. And I was like, yeah, man, I gotta go. That's really real. So now let's move ahead to me leaving and going to China. This is where everything starts to really take a turn, because I'm in China now, and I am teaching, and I'm teaching small kids at first. I went from hanging out with all these famous, well-to-do, successful people to I'm in this place where it's like little kids peeing on themselves, right? But I loved it. Not the pee. But I really loved the teaching part. It's like my mama was right. It was so natural for me. It was so interesting. And not knowing how to speak Chinese at all, not knowing how to read, that challenge was hard. But it wasn't hard at all, because I was able to slice right through it like it was nothing. I still don't speak Chinese well. I still don't read Chinese well at all. But I was able to slice right through it and create this person that's switching and becoming an instructor. And even though the glamour is totally turned off, like, this is so slow compared to LA, come on. And it's totally different. It's the total opposite. It's like the difference from being left-handed to being right-handed. It's more different than that. But I'm suddenly in this thing, and I love it. And my vision turned off from what I was doing. And so I totally blocked out the LA experience. I just totally blocked it out. And I started focusing on what I was actually doing now. And it turned out to be great. So I was in China for about a month. Oh, I'm sorry, about a year, when my mom got seriously ill. So it was one particular night, and I'm telling you, all this is long, but it really you will understand this journey if I tell you these details. Without these details, you may think this guy is just talking nonsense, but this is not nonsense. So these details are really germane to this story. So my mom gets sick. My mom has been sick since I was in middle school. Different things. Sarcoidosis. She had a stroke because of the medication. She had a slight heart attack because of the medications. And this is part of the reasons why I do not take medications for anything. You wanted something wrong with me, I got honey, garlic, and lemon. That's my medication. This is for real. So my mom had been sick for a long time, and I'm a mama's boy like no other. And it's sad that I'm a mama's boy, actually, because your daddy's not involved most of the time for us brothers. But it is what it is. Boo-hoo. Sad story. Black American dad story, right? So anyway, my mom is not well. I'm talking to my sister. I'm in China, and I asked how mom was doing because I knew she was struggling. My sister said, "Oh, mom is okay. She's good." And it was that response where I knew my mom was not well at all, because my sister never talks like that. It was that, this is true stories, man. True stories. I talked to my sister, let's say it's 7 o'clock or something, 7, 8 o'clock at night, because it's the morning time before she go to work in America. She told me mom was good, she's okay, and I knew that was bogus, because my sister never talks like that. I said a prayer. I said, if something's wrong with my mom, because I started loving China so much, like I said, I'm close to a year in now, I'm like, if something's wrong with my mom, please make it where I don't stop myself from going to see my mom, because the complication is this. I'm not just, even being in LA, I'm far away from my mom. But now I'm in another country, and I got stuff here now, and I got stuff in LA, and there's all these different challenges, all these different things. And I have a contract, and I have all these responsibilities everywhere, and all these things going on. So I have somewhat of a reason to not rush home to my mom, right? I guess that's somewhat of a reason. But when I found out when I felt that she really wasn't well, there was nothing that can stop me except for me. But I felt responsible to these little kids who started to love me, man, to started to be close to me. Forget that I'm not from China. Like, these kids really responded to me. And so I took that seriously. And so it was hard for me to just leave. So I said a prayer right after I talked to my sister. If something's really wrong with my mom, make it where I cannot be denied. I just go. Make it where, take it out of my hands. True story. There was this new person at the school. Her name is Lisa. Every day we're supposed to be at this school at 7 o'clock. I'm always there at 6:20, 6:30 the latest. I like to prepare something. I like to draw some pictures on the boards for the kids and all these different kinds of things. Well, it's like around 6:20 to 6:30. On the following morning, I show up at the gate. This Lisa person comes out and say, JJ, you cannot come in. Your visa is not right. You cannot come in. And I'm like, what? And now, let me back up a little bit. At this school, I'm one of the first groups of international people that they had there, and they're trying to build this whole thing, but they need the international people. There's teachers there. So it's about 7 of us in total that was there and part of that first group. And me, I just rose to the top. Like, everybody's asking me all these things, and so JJ became like the important foreigner, right? Even though I can't stand that term, foreigner. But anyway, so I'm the guy. I'm JJ's the best teacher. Like, I'm the guy, right? But I can't get in. I'm not even thinking about the prayer from last night. I'm taken aback, like, what? Like, why is my visa not right? Like, everything for me is good. Like, I don't have anything. I got my degrees. I got it. I don't even care about this like just months ago. Like, I can care less. But now I'm like, I care a little bit because I got all these kids I feel responsible for. I got about 40 kids in total or something like that. But then the whole school respond to me, so it's more than that. So I can't get in. Late day, like, just go home. We'll find out what's happening. We just go home. Like, the school is adjacent to the apartments we were living in, so I just go home and I find out. Long story short, yeah, man, your visa's not right. So this is what we can do. We can get you a ticket to go travel, see China. Or we can get you a ticket to go home. But right now, you can't teach her. So matter of fact, not mean, not nice, just matter of fact. I'm like, what? As soon as I said what, at that moment, I realized my mother is going to die. So I stopped worrying about what these people were talking about, and I recalled my prayer the night before. And everything I prayed for, it came the next morning, like not even 8 hours later. So they had a little party for me, well, a big party for me in the park. I can show you guys those pictures. They big party for me in the park and all this type of stuff. Everybody crying and blah, blah, blah. And just maybe 2 days later, I'm in a hospital looking at my mom like, what is this? So my mom was in this hospital so ill. I knew it was the end. I knew she would never come home again. So I was struggling with how to deal with my mom passing away. Like I said before, I am the ultimate mama's boy. I have siblings, but I am the one who's the most sensitive. So for the next year, I'm in a room in either a hospital, home, hospice, whatever it is, with my mom. I know she's never going home again. I know this is it with my mom. I got there around, I don't celebrate this, but it was actually around Easter time. Take it easy on me. I don't celebrate it, but it's around Easter time. So at the time when I was getting ready to go to Peru was in August. So my mom was getting progressively worse between April and August. But I had already prepared everything to go, and I felt like my mom is, either she's going to stay, she's going to go, but I love my mom. My mom is my hero. My mom is everything. But at the same time, I can't put my mom's situation above. This voice I heard in my head say, go do this. Now, maybe I can change the date and all this type of stuff, but I'm going through my head like, what do I do? What do I do? But I just, at the end of the story, it's like, I heard this in my head. And even though my mom is laying here, and when I go, she might pass away, or when I come back, she might not be here, I still got to go. So I talked to my mom and said, Mom, I got to go. She said, yeah, just go. So here we go. It's 2014. I go to Peru. I leave America, I go to South America. And first of all, when I arrive in the jungle area, just by being in the jungle by itself changes everything. It's one of the most beautiful places I've been. People there are incredibly kind. The people around that situation don't have the most money in the world, and that is a great thing. And why I say that is, like, people are simple, and they're happy with simple things. Watching kids play with a monarch as if it's like the greatest, most expensive toy in the world is just refreshing. Everything that you eat, the dieta, everything that you eat is from the jungle. It's right there. The coconuts, it's right there in the tree. All the different foods is right there. It's growing naturally from the jungle. Just being there like that. And this retreat, they only accept not even 20 people. So the facilitators plus the people who's coming, you get probably 20, not even 30 people in total. So it's a space where almost everybody's on the same page. maybe coming there for different problems, different situations, looking for different solutions, but everybody's on the same page. So soon as you cross into this gate and you walk into that space, you automatically feel different already. You feel like this is how life is supposed to be. I'll run through some of these ceremonies because I can get lost in the ceremonies, and I don't want to do that because it will become too long for you guys. So to date, I think I'm at about 14 ceremonies, but let's start with the first one. I go there and I totally feel out of place, man. Like people are, sometimes you're in a situation and people all use, I call it speak. They're all using the same speak, like, for example, everybody's talking like they're vegans, and everybody's talking about energies and namaste and all, using all these different things, and it's cool for them. But one thing I can't do is be fake. I just can't do the fake thing. So I felt I'm the only brother, but that's not a big deal for me. But at the same time, I'm the only brother. And I feel isolated, not by people, by just the feeling. I feel like I'm just out of my element. And I felt a lot of nerves about doing ayahuasca because, again, I hadn't done anything remotely close to this whatsoever. So it's a 9-day retreat. The first day you do nothing, and that makes it worse because you get in there and you're looking forward to the next day, and the next day at nighttime, it takes so long. So I'm listening to people's stories and all these different kind of things, and I'm like, okay. I'm focusing myself, and I feel a little afraid, actually, because I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm just trusting that the voice I heard is honest to me, because I'm honest to the voice. It can be the devil himself, but I feel like people talk about deception. Okay, great. If I get deceived, no problem. But what did my heart say? What did I feel in my heart? Who is this talking to me? In my heart, I felt like it was the voice that I heard many times throughout my life. I felt like it was the voice of God himself talking to me. And that's the only peace I had. I felt like, okay, I'm not being tricked. I'm not doing something bad. I'm not doing something illegal. I'm not going to do some drug. And that's where it started. When I started to watch the process the next day of ayahuasca and started walking through the grounds and seeing the plants and how they work with plants there. They don't always go to the doctors. Like, this plant heals this and this does this. And I started to realize how, I don't know if I want to say governments or whatever, can trick us into pushing away something that is natural for us to do, that is good for us to do, giving it a bad name, giving it a bad look, when the things that they push to us is all man-made nonsense that give us heart attacks and strokes, like my mom. So I started to take a deep breath about ayahuasca, like, wait a minute, man, what is drug about this? What is even the word psychedelic? What is psychedelic and drug about this? Like, who created this right here? This is a vine that's not man-made, so who created this? I started to break away from my own fears by just looking at nature like, man, well, this is not some man-made nonsense. So I started to shed that. We're going to the first ceremony. We're in the Maloka. You guys can watch this type of stuff online, so I don't want to spend so much time on it. But anyway, a Maloka is like a circular cabin, and it fits, like I said, about 20 people. And when you're in there, you basically have like a mattress, right? And to your right, you have a bowl, and the bowl is for you to throw up. And then because a lot of people purge when you're doing that, they give you these things called mapacho. I can't stand smoke, so I never smoke them, but it can be mapacho. They give you some oil, some peppermint oil to put on your tongue after you drink the ayahuasca, because the ayahuasca is really, really difficult to, like I said, it's like a thick, earthy, black licorice taste. So you can do it, but at the same time, it is a challenge to drink that. And then you have about, let's say, 7 to 10 facilitators in there, and they're taking care of everybody. So that's the setting. You have a maestro and a maestra, like they come in there singing Icaros. Icaros are actually these beautiful songs, and Shipibo, the Shipibo people, they actually put their songs into these. You know, when older people crochet, right? They crochet these beautiful like blankets and sheets and things like that. But they're actually songs that they're writing down. It's so fascinating, the Shipibo people. So Shipibo is slightly different from Spanish. But they actually drink some ayahuasca as well. Not so much. They have one foot in reality, one foot into the spiritual world, this plant world. And so they're able to help all of us from a different kind of a level. I didn't understand all of that in the beginning, but after doing it, I totally understand it. It's such a beautiful thing. At that moment, after my first one, I refused to label ayahuasca as a drug or psychedelic or anything of the sort. It was the most nurturing. It's like the greatest mother you can ever. That's why it's got called Mother Ayahuasca, actually. Like the greatest mother you can actually have in life. And that mother is nurturing and taking care of you and showing you something and teaching you something and chastising you and punishing you and then taking care of you, then giving you a kiss and wiping your brow. It's doing all these different things that's individual to each person. It's unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable. And so, whereas my first two ceremonies, I felt really strange because everybody was telling all these great stories and nothing really happened for me. Nothing. I'm a pretty tall dude. I'm got muscles and things like that. So sometimes people say if you have a certain kind of body type, be patient. It take a while and this, whatever. But the first 2 nights, people were telling all these great stories because the next day after the ceremonies we had was called integration. And people share what happened to them and how other people next to them interacted with each person's experience. Because after doing it, I understand we're all individuals, but we form a collective, man. We really do. So I was feeling left out, man. I was feeling left out, and I was not understanding what was happening. Why did I come? My mom's sick. When you do ayahuasca, you need to have an intention. When I first went, my intention was, I wrote this down as I applied to go. My intention was to see heaven without dying. I learned since then that it's impossible to see heaven without dying. Even because I do believe some people will be alive and but at the same time, there is a death involved. It's a death of an ego, but there is a death involved, in my estimation. So my initial intention was to see heaven without dying. I just wanted to be able to see God for myself, man. That's all. Like I get tired. My mom started thinking I didn't believe in God anymore. It's not that. It's like I stopped believing in church because, like in middle school, I started realizing like all the people were fighting over if Jesus is white or not. I'm like, Jesus is white, you idiots. And people didn't understand me, so I just kept it to myself. Like, Jesus is white because Jesus is made up. This is not me now. I'm not some awakened dude. This is me in middle school. I started saying this stuff because people were going to church and they yell hallelujah and doing a little corny church dance, like they have no rhythm, brothers, these old ass people who's doing all these things in church. They acting, they're performing, but soon as church is over, they turning on the hip hop loud. Now, I love hip hop, but that's not my point. They turning on the music loud. It's like the whole energy changes totally. I thought that was a farce. I never was okay with that. So my mom started thinking, I don't believe in God. It's like, it's not that I don't believe in God, man. It's like something is true out here and something else people are just telling us. Like, you go to anybody's home that, like where I grew up, I can speak for my grandmother's house. I can see the pictures on the wall right now. She got JFK, Martin Luther King, and above both of them is this corny white Jesus guy. And I never identified with that. And so my belief in the Creator has nothing to do with this image that's plastered on the wall. And so my mom thought I started to disbelieve, and that wasn't the truth. I just wanted to see God for myself. What does he look like? What does she look like? What does it look like for myself? So that was my intention. But as I told you, my mom was ill, so I changed my intention to be how to handle my mom's transition, how to be a tough for my siblings. I'm not the oldest, but I'm the second oldest. How can I be strong? How can I manage losing my mom? My mom is everything to so many people, but especially me. So I switched my intention. It's the third ceremony, and it's a different person. It's a different person singing the Ika Rose. It's a different shaman. That's the word I'm looking for. It's a different shaman. This shaman, Bima, never forget this guy. He's a younger guy, and his voice is fantastic. Like, he can sing, really sing well. And his is like aggressive. His Ika Rose are aggressive. Like, like you're at a rock and roll concert. And that energy changed the energy of the Maloka on the third night. Like, people were just crawling on the floor and screaming and crying and all these different kinds of things because they're in their own space. Not judging anybody, but I'm the quiet one that's just lay on my mat and don't move. Whatever comes, I just deal with it. But this one was just too much for me. It was too loud. And so I got up and I went back to my cabin. Somebody came to check on me, make sure I was good. And after that, I was by myself. Some other things happened, but I jumped to the thing that just blew me away. I'm laying on the bed, and outside, there's like these mesh screens, green mesh screens on the window. It's not glass, it's just mesh. So you're basically outside while you're inside. And so right outside that window was a tree, a big, huge tree. Now again, disclaimer, which I gotta stop doing, but okay, you can say I'm high, you can say you can say whatever you want, no problem. But if anything you can do for me, just believe what I'm telling you, and I'm aware of everything. So I'm not high, you guys. Ayahuasca doesn't make you feel high. I've never been high, but this is not high. This is not something you do for recreation. It's impossible. This is a punishment. You're going through something that's like really difficult. Even like for me, everything has been good in my experiences. Everything. But the goodness of everything is actually hard to take for me. For some other people, they see things that's really, really difficult. I think it's based on who you are on the inside. I think ayahuasca actually doesn't do anything. It just gives you the mental space to say, I'm working on myself. And once you put that energy into it, now you start to see what's really inside of you. I think that's the real story here. But anyway, I'm laying on the bed right outside the window. Sorry, guys. Right outside the window, there's a tree. I'm looking into that tree and I'm thinking about my mom. I'm almost to tears, or I'm probably crying silently out of the corner of my eyes. Tears are coming out because I know my mom just never going to go home. I'm going to lose. I know for sure that I'm going to lose my mom. Like, that's for sure. I know that for sure. I know I'm going to lose my mom. I know she's not going to go home. So that was for certain. And so in me, it was more of, how can I live life without my mom? Yeah, I'm a grown man, but it's just like, this person is so great in so many areas. I don't want to do this. Like, how can I manage this? Outside of my window, the tree forms a face. Now, again, you can think it's psychedelics, you can think I'm high, you can think I'm crazy, you can think whatever. But not a definite face, just a face, a face. The face is not moving, it's not like the tree is talking, but I can see eyes. It's like when you look at the clouds and you can see something in the clouds. It was like that. So it's not so dynamic, it's not, but you can definitely see the shape of a face in this tree. As soon as I saw the shape of the face in that tree, I started hearing the same exact voice that I heard in February. I heard the same exact voice that I heard many times when I was a little bit younger in college and when my great-grandmother passed away when I was a kid. It's the same exact vibration, the same exact voice. So what I heard in Long Beach is the same voice talking to me in Peru. Now I'm calm. I'm still upset about everything I'm thinking about. But that was a calming feeling, like I did something right. I'm talking all this stuff, blah, 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 mama, and all I hear is, that's my daughter. But what am I going to do when mama died? That's my daughter. Is my mama going to be? I'm asking all these questions. That's my daughter. So calm, so nonchalant, so simple. That's my daughter. I kept everything I'm thinking about. It's like rattling off all these questions, all these fears, all these worries. And all I hear is, that's my daughter. After that night, I was no longer afraid to lose my mom. I was happy and excited that she was going to transition and be at peace. Not just at peace. People say rest in peace. Forget that. Like, there's no resting in peace that I see from my mom. My mom loves dancing and ballet and laughing and cracking jokes. Like, I don't see her resting. I see her doing everything with no disease, with no sarcoidosis in her face, with no body ailments, without losing the top part of her hair, with her beautiful hair and her perfect smile, her perfect teeth. So this is what I saw my mom doing, and I was no longer afraid. I was no longer afraid, man. So if I'm high, no problem. If it's psychedelic, no problem. If it's crazy, no problem. All I know is, at that moment, I was no longer afraid, and I had been afraid. My mom got sick. I was in middle school. Now I am past college. I'm working for almost 10 years. So it has been close to 15, 20 years of my mom being sick. And now I know for sure, yes, I might lose her physically from seeing her physically right here, but I'm not losing anything. My mom is taken care of. I knew it. I always knew that. But this one was proof for me. I can't prove it to you, but it was proof for me. After that night, I was done with my mom. I was okay. I knew she was going to die, but I also knew she was going to be okay. That led to the fourth night. The fourth night was hard for me because it was like the last ceremony. And I learned through one experience, a night earlier, or 2 nights earlier, that my stress was in my stomach. And I understood that I should not have, it's not like I did something bad, but I should not have changed my intention, because my intention was for me. It's not for my mom. My mom is fine. So the last night, after going through all this, and I left out so much stuff, you guys, because this is already really long, but I got to give you the full plate so you can know from that. I just can't cheat it too much. And I'm cheated a lot, but I just can't cut all of it out. The fourth ceremony, my roommate was always talking about holding space, and then people were saying this was like a catchphrase, like holding space, and I just didn't understand what that meant until the fourth night. I felt, even when I was hearing about that's my mom, it still wasn't as dynamic. It just was, okay, I see this, I hear this, okay. But the fourth night, it was so calm, so quiet, and it was like everyone was calm. It was the opposite of the third night. And it was like my time, because I'm the quiet one. I don't make noise. I don't move. I literally don't move. I don't throw up. I don't go to the bathroom. I just stay right there in it every time. And this particular experience was so fantastic because I kind of got what I wanted. The fourth one was, I can feel, no words, but I can feel the same energy from before, from February, from the night, the third ceremony night. It's like a presence hovering in this space, in different directions, different places, different parts, but just hovering. I can't see anything of a person or anything, no spirit, nothing. I don't even hear words. But I'm in this space, and it's like a gradient light. At the top it's yellow and the most bright, and at the bottom is white. And still bright, but less bright. Still bright. It's so bright, and yet it's not too bright. It's comforting. It's like a blanket on top of you as well. You feel warm. this whole feeling, I feel like I got my wish to see heaven without dying. When I say heaven, I'm not really talking about the place. I'm talking about being in a space where the Father is in you can actually feel him right there, more so than we do right now. Just you can go see him. It's like you live right over there, right? So I didn't get the full scope of everything I had in my mind, the imagination. I didn't. But what I did get, it was like a payoff. It was like a reward for sticking it out, not questioning doing ayahuasca, not being afraid to do something I never did before because of where it came from, and trusting. It was 6 hours of this feeling that I cannot prove to you, and I cannot fully express myself of how fantastic it was. I didn't want any noise. I didn't want anything. Even when the facilitators were coming around and talking to make sure people were okay, I just rejected that feeling because it was like their hands was not clean enough. And this is no knock to the facilitators. They're angelic. But at that moment, I didn't want anybody to touch me because I felt like I was in this most clean space that I didn't want another hand to touch me. And that was the first time I went, 2014. 2016, you guys, this is when it became almost too much for me. It started to go to a different direction, and this is when, so between 2014 was fine, but 2016, 2015, 2017, 2019, 14, 16, 14, 16, 17, 19. Yes, 14, 16, 17, 19. That's what it is. So, 2016, I went back, but this time I wanted to go back because I was able to deal with my mom. I was strong. I cried one time. I was able, I asked her, should I go back to LA or go back to China? Now, my mom didn't want me to go to LA in the beginning, but she definitely didn't want me to go all the way over to China in the beginning. But right before she passed away, I asked her, what should I do? Go back to LA or go back to China? She said, go back to China. So I was like, okay. And I went back. So 2015, I went back to China. And the next year, the next August, I decided to go back to Peru. So it's 2016, I go back. And it all started to take a different shape for me. Let me skip ahead to something. Go back and then skip ahead, because this stuff is too much to share everything. I'm doing my best, but there's so many details. My mom asked for me. She asked my dad for me. I have I have 4 siblings. It's 5 of us, and we don't all have the same dad. And I always wanted to feel like my siblings they get everything first. Like I eat last. My mom, you better eat, boy. You're gonna fade away. You're too skinny. But I just wanted them to be ahead of me in one way. I just didn't want to be over them. I always put my siblings first. I just always did. So throughout our adolescence, my mom would say from time to time, you're the one I asked for. And I was always uncomfortable with that because my mom was never really so sweet and gentle to me because I'm the mama's boy. So she rejected me. She would push me away, actually, because I think growing up in the city, she can't have a boy who's too mama's boy, right? So she was pushing me away because I was the only one who was like that to her. My brothers are not like that. They love her just as much, but they're not like that. So she had to push me away a little bit. So that was what was familiar to me. But when she would say something nice, I always wanted to say something nice. But when she actually did, I was uncomfortable. And when she said, you're the one I asked for, because I felt like, well, what about the other ones? Like, I didn't feel comfortable hearing that. The last words my mom said to me as I was walking out of the hospital, because I left and I had to go to LA because I had to go and make some more cash because I had spent for that year, I had spent so much money. I was like, okay, I got to go go generate because I was paying for everybody and everything. So I needed to go for a month or so. So in September, I was leaving to go to LA. When I walked out of the hospital room, the last words my mom said to me in her life was, after I said, "I love you, Mama," and I knew I wouldn't see my mom again. I just knew it. She said, "You know, you the one I asked for." And it was like when Muhammad Ali punched George Foreman the last time. He didn't punch him again. It's like George Foreman was stumbling around and going in a circle, and he just followed him, but he didn't throw another punch. It almost like it took something away from it. It was the same thing for my mom when she said, "You know, you're the one I asked for." That was it. I didn't say another word. I just walked out. And that was it. Those are the last words my mom said to me. Fast forward to 2016. This is true, you guys, man. This is when it starts to get too complicated for me. This is all true, man. Like I said, you can call me whatever you want to call me, but just trust that I'm telling you my truth. This is my truth. This is not something I'm making up or exaggerating. Actually, I'm understating by far what happened to me. So the first night, I'm coming out of the Maloka. No, not the Maloka. Forgive me. Out of my cabin, and there's this hen. She's right underneath the steps, to the left of the steps, because all of the cabins are up on stilts, basically, because it's the rainforest, right? So you can see under the cabin fairly well. So right adjacent to the steps, it's a hen, and she's over there doing something, just scratching the ground. And so it was so aggressive that it caught my interest, and then I just stopped and looked at it. And she had 5 eggs over there, and she was covering them up with soil. It was literally 5 eggs. I actually took a picture of that. So fast forward to me. I drink ayahuasca. We're in there, like I said, I described the scene before. We're in a Maloka. It's about 20 of us. It's about 7 to 10 facilitators. It's the shaman. They're in there. And I lay down, and instantly my mom comes to me. My mom does not say one single word. I don't see my mom. She comes in the form of feathers. And like I'm laying on top of the feathers. So if I'm laying on my back, okay, picture angel wings, right? Just like that. I'm not saying angel wings, but it would be like that. So it's feathers underneath my back. Everything my mom is saying to me, sorry you guys, everything my mom is saying to me is in the form of like feathers shaking. Like feathers shaking. And I understand everything she's saying. Like I said, some of this stuff is really hard to explain. But believe that I'm telling you the truth. So it's like a picture shaking your, Patti LaBelle, right? She's like, side to side, right? Picture that. Like, so when she's talking, it's like, I am the feathers and I'm shaking. And everything she's saying to me, I hear it clearly through the feathers. And she's telling me so many different things. She's asking me to forgive her, which I thought was ridiculous. She said there's no heaven without me. That made me cry. There was this one time I told her the story. Forgive me, I forgot where I got this story from, because this is not original to me. But somebody was talking about the black box of an airplane. Don't let anybody damage your black box. Like they can damage the plane, but don't let anybody damage your black box. So that was something I told to my mom, and she actually liked that reference I shared with her. This is years earlier. In that vision, when my mom came to me, she was telling me so many nice things about myself that I never heard her say to me. And she told me why she couldn't be so sweet to me. She told me all these different kinds of things. She even asked me to forgive her because I was so kind to her, but she often pushed me away and was a little rough on me sometimes. But then she said, your black box is perfect. And when she said that, that was just like, that was a knockout blow for me. It was just too much. Your boy was crying quietly in my little space, in my quiet little cry, because I really was communicating with my mom in this beautiful way. My mom suddenly, like you snap your fingers, started being aggressively pushing me away. And I didn't understand it. I'm like, man, you just came and then now you're saying nice, now you're pushing me away again. Like, what is going on? I was so confused, man. She's pushing me away aggressively, like kicking me away from her skirt, like her skirt tails, just like pushing me away. And I was like, okay, whatever, just go. And then she just disappeared. It just stopped. But then she came back for a minute and she was saying things like, these are my eggs, get your own eggs. And as soon as she said, these are my eggs, get your own eggs, my vision went directly to the hen who had those 5 eggs next to my stairs. Like, some of this stuff is so unbelievable, you guys, really. It's really unbelievable. So I went immediately to the vision of that hen burying those 5 eggs. And she said, these are my eggs. Get your own eggs. Because I was always telling her, I'm worried about my siblings. I just always want to take care of them. People say, I'm my brother's keeper. I really feel like that. I'm always going to look out for my siblings. If I got it, they got it before me. Like, that's just the way I never loan to them. Anything I got is theirs. So they don't owe me nothing. I've always been this way. But she told me so dynamically, these are my eggs. Get your own eggs. And when she said that, it was a woman to my right, and I looked at her and I realized like what she was talking about was like, get your like family, and it just dawned on me. And then suddenly, I think I should skip this part, but I just kind of felt like this warrior. I'm holding these two, like to my left hand, my right hand, it's like I'm holding these big sticks, and I feel this scarring into my forehead. And I'm hearing something, forgive me, I forget some of this stuff, but the scarring into my forehead is like somebody's etching something into my forehead, like scratching it into there with a nail or something. And I'm just holding these 2 sticks, and it's like I'm becoming like this warrior, this man, and I'm like, I don't need my mom anymore. This is the feeling, I don't need my mom anymore. Like, and I can do this by myself. Like, all these things just coming into my head. And my arms don't move. I'm just holding these 2 things. And every time I get ready to cry, I'm no longer crying anymore. It's just like, I got to be a warrior. And just this thing, I don't know where this came from. I never thought about some warrior dude. But this is what's happening. The next episode, this stuff is unbelievable. To my left, from the waist up. So his waist will be at the floor. And then I can see his head. From waist up. No legs, just waist up. So where my knees are, to the left. So knee side. So if you land on your back, look at your knees, then look to the left. That's where this dude is standing. Half of a body, right? It's this Asian dude. So to be specific, it's a Chinese dude, and he tells me it's this person, and I don't know. Let's just say Ivy, right? He introduced himself as Ivy's dad, right? And he says, my daughter loves you. Just be patient with my baby. This is a quote. My daughter loves you. Just be patient with my baby. That's what I hear, right? The next, I don't know how long, is all these great things about me. Like, you're special. You're the one. And you're this. And all these things. And all this talking. I to this day, I still hesitate to say all the things I heard, because I would sound like I'm being like egotistical or something, but that's not it. This is really what this person, this energy, this spirit was saying to me. Who's Ivy? Well, when I first came to China, I was in Zhengzhou, and I loved it there. But when I came back, my situation was in Beijing. I do not love it there. This is not a knock on China. It's just different cities, just different areas, you know. And Beijing is more of a serious, everybody comes there to work, and then they go back to their Laojia's hometown. So I'm in Beijing. I get picked up by this person. It feels corporate. They just dropped me off at this hotel, and it's raining. They wasn't nice to me, nothing. So I was ready to go back to Zhengzhou. I actually had people on this particular day to pick me up and take me back to Jonzstar. But this person actually was working with me in the school. When I'm in school, I don't pay attention to anybody. I don't mix business with pleasure at all. But she did something really sweet. She left this tanghulu or something like that, I think it's called. It's like this, if you know what I'm talking about, it's like these balls. It's like a fruit, but they put sugar on it. And I don't eat sugar so much, but it's like these balls on this stick. So picture a chopstick with 5 balls on it. I think it's called tanghulu or something like that. But she put this stuff on my desk, and it was that thing. I felt like that was sweet. Like, this is a person who's actually thinking about me. So the people who came to pick me up and take me back to Jonzstar, I rejected. I said, I'm just going to stick it out here. So Ivy is the person who put the stuff on my desk. She's a beautiful person. She's really sweet. She's so nice. But I wasn't thinking about this person in such a kind of a way at all. Fast forward back to the jungle. It's her dad. Her dad actually really did pass away when she was a kid. So he's talking to me about her. My daughter loves you. Be patient with my baby. And he's saying so many things. Like, I never had great interaction with my dad. I saw my dad maybe 20 times is the most. I didn't see my dad a full month of my life. My dad is beautiful. He's great. There's nothing bad, but I just didn't see the dude. But even if I saw him more than that when I was a kid or something, let's round it to a year. A year of my life I saw my dad, and that's way exaggerating. But this dude felt like a fatherly figure for me. He was telling me so many fantastic things about myself that I never think about. So I was like, okay, whatever, right? So first my mom pushing me away, get your own eggs. The next scene is I'm this warrior saying I don't need my mom anymore. The third scene is this Chinese dude come telling me his daughter loves me and be patient and so many great things about me. I'm like, okay, whatever. This is all 2016. The last ceremony, once again, I'm tired of hiding from it. It's really the Father, you guys. That's who was talking to me. He comes and sits on my left again. I just feel this presence, and it's the same vibration that I felt at various times throughout my entire life. He sits on my left, and he's saying, okay, anything you want to say, just say it. And I said, okay, come. As soon as he said that, I'm like, come back and get us. Before he can finish the sentence, I said, come back and get us. And he said, this is exact words. Okay, I'm waiting on you. I didn't understand that, but as soon as he said, okay, I'm waiting on you, I'm looking like an inside of a womb, and I see a baby. There's like a baby inside. Like, what is this baby? Like, who's the baby? What's the baby? All right? Am I the baby? What's this baby? I'm not doing anything to actually, for that to be real. I don't want to get so deep into my personal life, but I'm not the person who's running around. Just say that, because, like I said, since I was younger, I always was responsible for my life, and I didn't want to. One thing my dad did tell me, because you start getting popular for whatever reason. He said, make sure if you do something with a woman, make sure you love them, or something like that, because of what could possibly happen. And so I wanted to be great. I wanted to play ball. I wanted to have a great career. And not saying having a baby would stop that, but starting in middle school, high school, because my friends were all doing things already. Me, I wasn't. And I was happy to say that. I was a virgin. I was happy to say that, because I've always been okay in my own skin. So I was like, whatever, man. You guys, like one of my great friends. What does it say? No name. One of my great friends, he played basketball just as well as me, but this dude started skipping school and sneaking in the garage, and next thing you know, he got more than 5 kids in between grade 9 and grade 12. He had more than 5 kids. I don't know what the number is now. Same person, but he got more than 5, man. And so I didn't want that life. So that has kind of followed me my whole life. So I'm not running around like that. So I know, I say that to say I don't have a baby on the way. I know this for sure, right? So I'm thinking like, And you guys, I'm telling you all this stuff, but I'm not some square dude. But this is my truth, man. It was impossible for me to have a baby because I wasn't doing anything. So when I said, okay, come back and get us, he said, okay, I'm waiting on you. And then I see a baby rolling in the womb. The baby looks like me, like if I was a baby inside of a stomach. So I'm confused, like, what is this baby? Who is this baby? What baby? What is the baby? I ain't understand at all. I leave the jungle and I start to put all the pieces together. My mom came, and forget the fact that she was sweet to me and telling me all the good stuff. What she really was saying was, go now, go and have your own family. Don't worry about your siblings. Those are my eggs, including you. Don't worry about that. Those are my kids. Go and have your own kid. Ivy's dad comes to me and says his daughter loves me. Just be patient with his baby. And I totally understand what that means now. Really, trust me, I understand. So I see this Chinese dude. And you know, people are so quick to jump on even the awakening, and everybody's running and yapping and talking about who's true Israel, who's not, and strange women. It's this one brother I actually used to like listening to, but he's like stuck on the fact of strange women and strange this. And to be honest, we all got to be careful with this awakening, what we say to people, because today we are living our today, but yesterday may be attached to us. We may have been with somebody of a different race and this. We may have eaten pork. We can't make everybody feel so low, because sometimes you do. Me, I'm a strong person. Even though I'm nervous to talk about this because it's so personal and it's so out of this world, I'm still a strong person. So I never really care what people think, because I do everything to the best that I can do. But what I'm saying is, I feel like I'm in this spiritual, something is telling me specifically what to do and who to do it with. And if you look at Ivy, you won't see a traditional looking sister. You won't see that. And so people, if I was walking down the street of New York right now with now I'm jumping ahead, but let's not jump ahead too much. Somebody might yell and yap at me when they don't even know what they're talking about, because I heard something from something really special inside of myself even to do this with this particular person. Even if it wasn't God, I trust myself enough to know, even if I'm wrong, there's not God talking to me. It's just me. No problem. I trust myself. So we got to be careful with that, because it can cause, and that did cause a little bit of frustration, or that's not the right word, but not confusion. It caused a little bit of angst inside of me, because like, am I doing something wrong? Am I doing something? What am I doing here? But it's not coming from my own head. But anyway, I trust all this stuff, and I just roll with it. So in 2016, the completion of the 4 ceremonies tell me a straightforward story. Get off my mom's coattails, be a man. There's a person out there that's perfect for me. Forget all the other noise. This person is perfect for me. Just be patient and have your own family. That's what the baby represented, actually. So I did not want to get married. I did not want to have a child. I used to want to have a child and get married, but I started to look at the world and seeing how complicated it was, and I was like, to bring a person into this world is a little bit cruel, so I moved away from that. And then when you live in the LA life, man, most people in LA don't even have a dog. It's like no responsibility, so you can work on your craft, so you can just focus on that. So I was a part of that life, part of that thinking. So it was hard for me to slow down and say, okay, I'll get married, I'll have a kid in this world. Like, man, it's the hardest thing. Like, that part is probably the hardest thing up until that point that I ever had to accept. But once again, it's like I didn't question all this stuff that was coming to me. I just trusted what was happening because of where it came from. People listening to me might think I'm crazy or something. Like I said, somebody really close to me said I'm just schizophrenic. I mean, like, which is, like I said, it was so sad to hear from that person, but this stuff does sound crazy. But it's my truth. It's my truth. And I just decided to trust it. I'll pause for a minute right now, even though I'm almost 2 hours into this thing already. I'm not a Bible thumper, But my favorite person in the Bible my whole life has not always been a Messiah stories. It was Abraham. I always felt like this man left everything. This man trusted something that nobody can hear and see. And I never put myself in that category or nothing like that. But as I was struggling to say, okay, should I really do this? And people are going to say strange this, and I'm in this foreign country, and all this stuff started popping in my head. I'm honest to myself. This stuff came from a source that I truly trust, and that's what I need to focus on. And I just did it. And then I look back at this person that I respect the most. Not respect the most. I identify the most with out of the text since I was little was Abraham. And I was like, that identification gave me the courage to continue on in this journey, because like there's some bumps that come along with listening, man. Everybody talk about God like they're used car salesmen, like there's no issues, like there's no problems, like there's no frustrations, man. I can't stand that, and I think we should stop doing it, because we're not helping each other that way. Like there's even though everything in my life is smooth, it's great, it's even in that greatness, there's some bumps. And marrying somebody in a whole nother country and having a daughter it's like all this stuff, man. And I know I jumped ahead, but all this stuff was in my head. And like I said, I was listening for people. I don't follow anybody. I'm doing this for Big Levi, but I don't follow even Big Levi. I just like the brother. But at the same time, especially a person like me who's isolated, living all the way in China, all by myself, there's nobody who's like me that I know here. Sometimes you just want to hear some brothers talk, and you want to identify with something. But most of the people I hear, they're all talking the opposite. If we're true Israel, we should go cleave to, all this stuff, man. And it can get to the best of us. And so for a split second of time, I was questioning, what am I doing? Jump ahead, I got married, and I have a beautiful daughter that I cannot live without. And actually, I'll tell something about that part. This is just for me, maybe this would be something that others can identify with, but I've always had a relationship with the Father my entire life. I've always been close in that space, at least from my end. He might say, you suck, but from my end, I've always been right there. People say you're off the path. I've never been off the path. I can honestly say that. Not saying I'm perfect or nothing, but I've always been on the path. My mom always said that, stay on the path. I've always been on the path. But as much as I've been on the path, it's like you can think and feel that God loves you a certain kind of a way, and you can imagine it, you can read about it, you can hear about it. But here's the thing that grew me a little bit. I got to be honest about this. The way that I love my daughter, and I'm not God, right? But the way that I love my daughter, I can't explain it. It's like an open source of nothingness and everything. It's like nothing blocks anything, though. It's just this pure thing where she don't even need to ask me. I already know what she needs, and she can get it for sure. It's a certain thing. When I think about how I feel about my daughter, I can begin to truly understand how the Father thinks about his kids. Before that, I couldn't see it so clearly. I can see it. Don't get me wrong. I can see it, but I didn't feel it like I feel it now, because I understand it from a different perspective. And having that daughter and that family, that small family, I only want one kid, but having that situation really taught me something about the love of the Father. And so I'm happy I listened, even with all the challenges that comes along with it. I told you 2016 is when it started going vertical. 2017 is straight up. It's straight up vertical. There's no slope. It's just vertical. I go back in 2017, man, and my daughter is on the way, and I'm just like in this certain kind of space. When I go, normally I think I mentioned this before, it's 9 days, like 8 nights, 9 days. And it's like 4 ceremonies. For some reason, they changed it, and it's only 3 ceremonies, and it's a day shorter or something like that. And I'm in China, so a lot of times the internet doesn't work well for what I need to do. I don't want to speak about the details, but it just can't access Western sites easily at all. So when you actually get access, you just like knock it out and be done with it, because it's not consistent. Well, I overlooked something, and it was one less ceremony and one less day. It wasn't until I was in America at my brother's house before I flew to Florida, where Big Levi is, and then fly from Florida basically to Peru. That was always the trip. But I'm at my brother's place, and I opened my email, and I realized, like, what? Wait a minute, it's only 3 ceremonies? I still have this email to this day. I send the email to the person who runs the facility, and she responds and explains to me, and I was a little bit frustrated, but she sent me another message, and that message said, one word, trust. And as soon as she wrote that, I just stopped. I was like, okay, whatever. I leave my brother's place. I fly to Florida. Normally we go, I think it's, forgive me if I'm wrong, but typically, if I'm not mistaken, we go directly from Florida to Peru. But this time we went from Florida to Atlanta. We went to Atlanta, and then there's a layover. But there's a layover where we ain't flying out. So they give us some meal tickets, and they give us a hotel, and they're like, okay, you can yell, scream, whatever you want to do, but call this number right here, player, and your ticket will be ready tomorrow at 4 o'clock or something like that, right? It was like nothing you can do. There's no other flights that's flying from there to go to Peru, so I just had to suck it up. Well, sucking it up was difficult because it's already a shorter amount of time, and there's 3 ceremonies only, and I'm like, man, what is this, man? So frustrated. But then I let go of the frustration. I think about what you wrote me, and I just trust, right? So I'm in Atlanta. I've been to Atlanta several times, but I never really visited certain places of Atlanta. So I make a plan for the next day, because my flight was like after 4 or something like that. So I'll wake up early, and I make a plan to find out where Dr. King is. And so I go to that area. All of this, I'm telling you, has a lot to do with this journey. I'm not comparing Martin Luther King to the Father, to the Messiah. I'm not. But in somewhere there is a thread, and let me explain what it is. My entire life until that moment, Dr. King was like this, like he and Malcolm, they always, like Biggie and Pac, right? They always got to be together. But these people are so giant, and I wasn't alive when they were alive, so they're so giant. I read about them in the book. Actually, Martin Luther King's son, the third, I remember I was the captain of the basketball team. He came to speak to us, and I introduced him on stage. But even though meeting him, it still didn't hit home like what I'm getting ready to tell you. So I met his son before and all that, but being in Atlanta was different. I decided to go there, and just seeing his house, and if you've been there before, you know, like just steps away is the fire station, and then just steps away is the original church, and all this stuff. I started to see this guy, this kid running down the street, chasing his dad's car, playing baseball. That house is actually beautiful. Like, man, they tell false stories about brothers, man. Those brothers were not poor, right? Even though I know they did some additions to it, but it's still like a beautiful, big old, huge house. And so I started to really see Martin Luther King as a kid, as a human, as a person who was on this earth, not just this story, not just this fantastic being who came and helped so many people. That translates to the Messiah to me. It was just like Martin Luther King, if you like him or don't like him, don't matter. He was a real person, not just this thing in the book. And the Messiah was really here for real. I made that connection at that moment. I never saw him as a real person before, and just being there, going to see that, going to be a part of that was enriching for me. But that's not the story I want to tell you. I leave the hotel. I get a car to pick me up and take me to the area where the house, the fire station, the church, even the new church where Barack Obama was. It's just right there in that section. And then just right down the street, I believe that's where he and his wife are laid to rest. So it's right there in that spot. If you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. Well, I think it's the same side street where the church is. Now, I'm from my inner city, right? No matter where I am in the world, I'm observant. I trust and everything's cool. I'm nice to everybody. I never really have problems ever. But at the same time, I'm still observant. You never lose that. The driver pulls up, and in front of me is like a little store, some restaurant or something on the corner. But then right behind that is an alleyway. And if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. The alleyway is actually really clean. You can see straight down the alleyway. There was like only one huge dumpster. And there's nobody in the alleyway. I get out. That's the first thing I'm paying attention to, like alleyways and behind your cars and all that. So I'm paying attention. There's nobody I see. Now this might not be such a spiritual thing or something, but this might be just me overlooking something. But just trust that I didn't see anybody. So the driver helps me get my bag out of the trunk because I just have one big, huge, those big, huge camper backpacks. I have one of those big things. And so as he is taking the bag out and close the trunk, there's a dude standing on the other side of the trunk. It's just a dude. And I'm like, where did this dude come from? Like, because I looked. I don't know Atlanta, man. I don't know. I've been to Atlanta, but I've never been out and about by myself. I've been to Atlanta when I was little. Forget that. I'm talking about I flew there before, but this is my first time walking the streets by myself. So I'm observant. I didn't see a human being. I didn't see a dog. I didn't see a cat. Close the trunk and there's a dude standing right there. And the dude's like, hey man, you got some money? And at first I was like, no, I don't have money. But then as soon as I said no, I was like, man, why are you lying to this dude, man? I ain't balling, but I got some money for this dude. So inside my zipper, when I'm traveling, right, I take out the 20 and I give it to him. And he's like really happy. I wanted to get a haircut. And so I was like, hey man, where can I get a haircut? He's like, okay, I'll take you. First I asked him where Martin Luther King lives. He's like, oh, it's right here. Just turn right. It's right there. And then I was like, okay, cool. Well, I want to get a haircut. And he said, okay, I'll take you. Same side street. Like, so the church, no, forget it. You know the cross, like, whatever. I have to explain it to you in much detail. But he takes me to a barbershop that's basically across the street from the new church, right? So he takes me to this barbershop. But before he do that, it was something different about this dude. So I actually took a picture of him. I was like, yo, man, let me take a picture. I never wanted to take a picture with it. He was like a vagrant. What's the reason you would take a picture of a vagrant, really? Like, there's no reason unless you're doing something creative or something. But it was nothing you would think, why do you want to take a picture of this dude? I didn't have an answer, but I wanted to take a picture of this dude. And I did. I still have that picture. This dude took me to a barbershop. I'm not knocking the brothers in there, but this dude, I ended up paying $50, right? This dude brought them $50, and they didn't even recognize this dude. They were so nice to me. He's like, hey, man, I brought you somebody to get a haircut. Hook him up. But they didn't give him any thanks, hi, hello, who are you? They didn't even look mean at him. It was like he didn't exist. And then they just welcomed me in, and I just got a haircut. And I was bummed out by that. Like, these brothers, like, why you didn't say hi to this dude? Like, I ain't even understand that. I get a haircut. Like I said, I walk around, I see the thing, and I have a great feeling, and I'm so happy. I go into the church. As soon as you walk in the church, they playing some of the old sermons, and I'm taking a couple pictures, and I'm just sitting there imagining like how these people really were activated in this space that changed the world in a certain way. You don't have to agree with nonviolence or violence. That's not my point. But here's a person, a kid, a young man. This dude died before he's 40. Like, he did so many things, and I just was embracing that, man. And I was really happy that we had that layover. I was really, really happy that I went there because I learned something while I was there. I get on the plane, I'm in Peru. But this time it's actually good that I'm late because I'm late, but I arrive on the day where it's the ceremony, so I don't have to wait that first day. I can't stand that first day waiting to the next day at night. So I arrived there in the afternoon, so I only have a few hours before we do ayahuasca, man. And it's the same place, so I'm really familiar with the space, with the people, not the new guests, but the people, the core people that runs the facility. So I feel so comfortable. I'm going to run through these really quickly because these ones are a little bit too much for me. And the time is flying by. 2017. My first ceremony, bam, right off the top, man. Like normally the first one is the second one, but this one is instantaneously, man. It's like right off the top. The Father's sitting right next to me, man. And I hear my mom's voice. Once again, the same feathers. You're the one I asked for. You're the one I asked for. But then I hear an emphasized voice. You're the one I asked for. You're the one I asked for. And it transitioned from my mom saying that to what I feel the Father himself telling me I'm the one he asked for, which was so strange to me. Just, that's like I said, I'm telling these stories. But you got to understand, time is moving by. And all of these beautiful things are actually not so easy to take because I really feel like I'm being told this directly from the Father himself, that I was the one he asked for. It was just, that alone was too much to handle for a moment. Like, it's just overwhelming. But then it just goes more crazy from there. One thing I thought I was able to tell you guys, I would just leave that one out because it might sound a little offensive to somebody, but anyway, no, I won't leave it out, man. Forget that. I started thinking because I started to feel all these energies coming. This energy, not energies, this energy coming, telling me all these things. You're the one I asked for, you're the one I asked for, you're the one I asked for, and then he's just sitting on my left, not moving. And this is what I hear, and this is when it just became too difficult for me to handle for a moment. Saying, you're the one I asked for. This is not a partnership. You're going to take over and forever. It is you. All these different kinds of things. And I'm just taking it kind of like a grain of salt at first, but he's repeating, it's you. You are the one that's going to take over and forever. You're the one I asked for. It's not a partnership. All these different kinds of things. And I'm going back to what I said the last time I was there, like, come back and get us. He's like, this is happening. He says, it was this thing I said to my friend. We were on this e-bike, and she was blowing the horn at these two old people in China. I was like, man, come on, man. These people are old as hell, man. You ain't got to blow the horn. Fast forward back to 2017. He says, I'm an old man, Jonathan. Can you rush an old man across the street? And that was in relation to come back and get us. Like, I'm an old man. Can you rush an old man across the street? And when he said that, all these things started to feel real because I'm talking to this, forget if it's not God, right? Even if I'm wrong, my whole life I felt the same, I heard the same voice and felt the same energy. And so it's incredibly familiar to me. So maybe it's not God, maybe, no problem. But that's who I feel that it was. And he's telling me all these things, but he's telling me in the way where it's not crazy. He's just sitting there. And when he's telling me, it's you, you're taking over and forever. I'm an old man. He just kept repeating, I'm an old man, Jonathan. It's you who's going to take over and forever. It's you. You're the one I asked for. And then I started seeing all these things. All these beautiful things, man. And then throughout this, the second ceremony was like I did leave out the one thing that maybe will be too much for people to hear, so forgive me for that. But I'll jump to the second night, which I feel like I'm really cheating this one because, and like I said, one reason is because it was so hard for me to absorb this one at first. The second one, I saw this space. I can't say it was heaven because it was, I've never pictured heaven this way. It was, I just can't begin to explain what this place was like. It's like a video game, like a video game. All these interesting things, and the word, I just cannot capture it. I just can't capture it. But I saw this space where I was functioning and acting as if I was God himself. And it just was, Oh, it's like I said, this stuff is hard to say. I can't prove it. But then it was hard for me to take at the time. And I was seeing how it was all these problems and worries I was thinking about. My friend's friend was dying of cancer at the time. And it was just like I was balling these problems up and throwing them into nothing. The same friend's uncle or stepdad, they call it uncle here, but stepdad was dying of cancer too. And I saw him and I balled his problem up into nothing. And it was like all these different things that I thought was a problem. And I was able to just ball it up and it just went away. I could not remember the problem anymore. It's like this person was dying of cancer and I balled it up and threw it away like a piece of paper. And then suddenly I cannot recall what that problem was with that person. I might sound asinine trying to tell you this stuff, but it really was happening. I really saw. This is how I can explain it. Going back to Dr. King. I really believe, like, before my mom passed away, she saw something. My sister said she was reaching towards something. Moments before she passed away, she was reaching for somebody. And then she passed away. Dr. King, I think it's the last speech, he said, I've seen the promised land. When he said that in that rhythmic, powerful way, I really believe that man saw something. I really believe it. And it's easier for us to believe something from somebody else, but from us, we always question ourselves. Well, at least I do. I can be honest. I'm still doing it at this moment. But I seen the promised land, man. I really did. I really, really did. And it's difficult to explain it because it might not look like what we see in the book. Some person walking around in white with some wings on. Ain't nothing. What I saw is nothing like that, but it's so much better than that. So much better than that. But I was the guy. When people were looking for God himself, it was the face they saw, the person they saw, the body, the energy was Jonathan. You guys might make fun, turn it off, think I'm crazy, but that was too much for me to ingest. That was just too much, man. I stopped for a moment and I said, it's like I turned the music off. Like, I've gone crazy. I started thinking, am I the Antichrist? Am I crazy? Like, is this a drug? Are they setting me up? I started rambling through all. Really, because I'm like, man, I did not want to do something bad. Like, did I do something terrible? Have I made a mistake? One of my closest friends said, like, doing ayahuasca and stuff like that is cheating. I'm like, well, man, am I cheating? Like, even though it's my close friend, I just blew that off because people are going to say whatever they're going to say. But at that moment, when I saw that, I'm like, man, this is too crazy, man. Like, I never went into it. I wanted to be close to God. I wanted to have him. But I didn't say I want to be God. Like, what is and even if it's just me inside of me, like, why do I have some sick, crazy thought? What is this? And I'm going through all of this and sitting on my left, calm, like an old, wise person, not saying nothing. I finish all of that and it's right back to, you're the one I asked for. It's going to be you. It's not a partnership. And I'm thinking, why can't I just do it right now if it's true? Well, I'm an old man. Can you rush an old man across the street? It just goes back to that. The third ceremony was really impactful for me. It was not so visual, but it was something I had to learn. Now, one of the downsides about being in Peru, they have these humongous, basically cockroaches, right? Humongous. And sometimes there's a tarantula or two running around in that maloca. I caught one time in a bucket. And when they're on you, for me, I don't know if this is a real thing, but for me, it feels like they sting a little bit when you feel them on your body. I'm laying there and I feel like there's one of those big, huge cockroaches crawling on my body. And I want to hit it off. But I hear, Jonathan, it's you. You're the one taking over and forever. And everything is you. Everything is you, right? And I keep hearing everything is you. And then I was saying, this is uncomfortable. All I can focus on was this thing crawling on my leg, or at least the feeling of something crawling on my leg. I'm like, this is uncomfortable. And one of the things I will never forget, and I use this a lot with people I talk with and kids and everything, comfort is overrated. I hear comfort is overrated. And soon as I hear that, I just embrace this thing that's crawling on me, and it goes away. I don't feel it anymore. So too much stuff to share, man. Also, another thing, I'm most comfortable with women around me, man. Like, dudes touching on me and next to me is like, I'm uncomfortable like that a little bit, right? But it was this dude, I forget his name, unfortunately, but he was next to me. And like I said, some people throw up when they're in their experience. So this dude was throwing up, and he's to my right, and I was thoroughly disgusted because I was able to really understand this guy was throwing up, and some throw up splashes went on my body. But at that moment, I put together everything I was told, and I just embraced that dude that was next to me and allowed that to happen. And so he actually rolled over close to me and was using my bucket, actually. We're laying next to one another, and so, but my bucket is to the right, his bucket is on the right, but he rolls over to his left, and so he's using my bucket. So that's why him throwing up is so close to me. But this time I chose not to run away from him, and I just asked him, was he okay? He's like, yeah, I'm okay. Fast forward, when we do the integration, he was like, yeah, John, you were really helpful in my journey last night. I forgot what and how, but because we all are a part of each other's journey, actually. So anyway, what I was seeing was just so much, but then I started to hear some powerful things. And this one ceremony I gotta share with you guys. I left it out. In 2017, or was it 16? I think it's 17. So I left this one out, but this one is important. Everybody's so friendly, especially to me when I go there. But there was one woman. I just thought she did not like me. I fast when I go there, so I don't eat, but I still want to be a part of it. So when people are eating, I still sit at the table, and I want to meet the people and talk and all that type of stuff. So I'm present. I'm a part of it, even though I'm fasting, right? And so she never talked to me. As a matter of fact, one time there was only 2 chairs available. I sat down. She had already put her plate there. When I sat down, she moved her plate. I didn't understand. Not on some racist stuff or something like that, but I started to think in my head, like, is she just uncomfortable with men? But I wasn't the only man there. Is she uncomfortable with brothers? No, because there was a sister there at the time. So I didn't know why she would just do me like that. I'm in the Maloko. I forget which ceremony this is, so forgive me. This one you got to plug it in to either 2016 or 2017. I'm in the Maloka, and I had heard from the Father, come directly to me. Don't go to anybody else. Come directly to me. Not even the Messiah. Come directly to me. So I listened to that. This particular ceremony, I'm laying down, and it actually was really beautiful this night because it started raining, and that's the only time it's ever rained during the ceremony, and that adds a whole nother layer, in my opinion, to the greatness. So I'm laying down, and I told you guys I never really have to throw up, but this time I felt like I needed to throw up, so I grabbed my bucket, and I just roll over and I grab it. And I'm heaving into the bucket. Not throwing up, nothing's coming out, but I'm heaving in there. And I'm just holding the bucket. And I'm holding it, and I'm holding it, and I'm holding it. And now the bucket is becoming heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier, and I'm holding it, and I'm holding it, and I'm holding it. When you're in the ceremony, the facilitators say if you need help, just knock 3 times on the floor, and then they'll come help you. So I'm holding this bucket, and this goes on for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and this bucket is starting to feel like an elephant, man. It's a plastic little bucket, but it starts to feel incredibly heavy. And of course, you would jump in, you would say, why don't you just put the bucket down? But I just could not. That was not even in my thought. I'm holding this bucket so much. And I'm trying to it's to the point where I never want to bother the room. I never ask for help. But I need help. I use my foot to tap on the floor 3 times. Tick, tick, tick. Nobody comes. As a matter of fact, 2 people do come, but they sit at the top of my head someplace, but they don't do anything because I didn't knock on the floor. The key is to knock on the floor, and I'm so happy they have that rule. I'm so happy because I'm trying to tap quietly with my socks on, And they came over to make sure I was okay in one way, but they didn't do anything. And I'm holding this bucket. Now it's we've 30, 40, 50 minutes into me holding this bucket. I'm holding it till it becomes like I'm holding up a building, a skyscraper. And I'm like, okay, Father, please help me. Soon as I say that, I hear, okay, put the bucket down. Genius. So I put the bucket down and everything goes away. Now, again, that story on one way might sound ridiculous. Like, dude, why didn't you just put the bucket down? But I couldn't. I literally didn't even think about putting it down. All I knew is it was too heavy, but I didn't think about putting it down. But the Father told me earlier in an earlier ceremony, say, only come to me. And I was fighting, trying to do it by myself. Like, I can do this. When I finally submitted and said, Father, please help me, he said, okay, put the bucket down. I put the bucket down and the pain was over instantly. And that resonated with me so much. And I was like, I understand so many things. But is this really real? Like, I'm hearing I'm God, man. Like, I'm really hearing that I am God. Like, and I started thinking, yeah, the chosen people, he's like, no. They, you. Specifically. And I'm thinking I'm going bat poop crazy, really. But he's specifically saying you. Not all of us, not the chosen people, not the 1/3, not you, not the 144,000, you. And it just, that's all I kept hearing from 2016 until present day. You. Don't stop. It hasn't stopped. But this was one of the tests I did, man. I was like, Tammy, I shouldn't say names, but okay. Her name is Tammy. Tammy was about 3 or 4 people over from me. She never talked to me the whole time. Never smiled, never nothing. I was like, man, this is just too much, man. I'm going crazy. I got a plan. I said, if this is real, if this stuff is real, I'll do anything you ask me to do. Even you talking about I'm God himself, and this is crazy to me. But if this is real, let Tammy come over and give me a hug and kiss. Suddenly, it started thundering and lightning, and the rains came down. This is a true story. I was like, oh, what did I do? How dare you tempt me? It really happened just like that fast. It was already raining, but soon, drizzling, not raining. But soon as I said that, it was like all this thunder, and then it just started raining, right? Forgive me with the time, but it was within 5 minutes. Tammy got up to go to the restroom. She came over to me. She laid down next to me, gave me a hug and a kiss on my cheek and forehead. I said, JJ, I love you. Got up and went to the bathroom. True story. This person, the entire time, never even said hello to me. I sat next to her. She got up and left. She never said anything to me whatsoever. Not even a smile. She's the nicest person. We're friendly to this day. But she never said a simple word to me. And I'm so happy that that happened, because I'm not saying that was proof. But when she did that, not even 5 minutes later, I was a believer. As much as I was pulling and yanking about all these great things I was hearing and seeing, I said, man, this is too, there's no such thing as coincidence, right? But this can't be a coincidence. All these things can't be coincidence, man. It just cannot be. 2019, I go back, man. I'm skipping so many things because it's too long. And I had 4 ceremonies to do. I only did 2. And let me tell you why. I just was blown away too much. I couldn't take it anymore, man. What I saw, first of all, I kept hearing, everything is you. You listen to me, I listen to you. You listen to me, I listen to you. That's what I kept hearing. You listen to me, so I listen to you. I kept hearing all these things. Everything is you. Just like a movie, you're watching a documentary. This is all true stuff, you guys. It's like stuff I never think about. But I'm having flashbacks about all this stuff that I never think about. Sorry, there's people outside the door. I'm having flashbacks of all these things that I was nice, even down to like times I don't like killing flies and stuff like that. I just let them out. Now mosquitoes is different. So even down to times when I just went out of my way to let a fly go out of the window, I would see that in a particular time that I totally remember, but I'd never thought about it. People who I helped, kids, people who I gave something to, food that I gave to people. I actually see it as if it's happening again, like a movie. So I'm seeing all of this stuff, and all I keep hearing is, this is why it's you. This is why it's you. And then, once again, it's this old dude. He was I don't want to say strange, but he just didn't fit, man. This dude didn't fit in our ceremony. And he just didn't fit. He's like 70 or something, and he just didn't fit. He just didn't fit, man. And I remember I was talking to him earlier in the day of one of the ceremonies. He said, JJ, I'm an old man. And I just remember that. I remember in the ceremony and seeing that guy, but he represented the Father to me. It was like he was in his body. And he was saying, I'm an old man. This is all you. You are the one everybody will see. You're taking over. This is not a partnership. And when I looked at that man, that's what I heard. And then it's like a glow was on this guy. And then it went away. These are all true stories, man. I can't prove this nonsense, man. But it really did happen. So all these things happening, man, on the one, because it's a long ceremony. You got like 8+ hours of all kinds of things you're going through, and I'm leaving so much stuff out. But everything I'm seeing and hearing is so fantastic about me. And not just about me being God himself, you guys. If I could say that he told me that the chosen people, all of the chosen people, we're going to be rescued, we're going to be restored, we are I would have felt better. I would have felt like a part of a collective that's going to hear and see something the same. But the emphasis then, and it continues to this very moment, where it is you, man. If I believe it or not believe it, it don't matter. It's like I've been beating myself up for so many, since 2016, beating myself up. I went through a process of literally going through highs and lows, and even to the point like, I don't even want to be on this earth no more. This is too much. Like, everybody would think I'm crazy. Nobody will believe me. Nobody will believe me, man. This is insane. Like, what did I do to hear this stuff? I'm not some crazy person who's looking to talk nonsense. Why am I hearing this? I went through all of this. And again, there's so many sidebars and so many things in this journey that I want to share, but it's just too long. For one time, I was not even in a jungle. I was in Jonzstar, actually visiting. And I was in the bathroom, and I was talking specifically, like, is this for real? He's like, man, you gonna keep talking about this. Do you want to drive the car or not? And this is why I feel, even though I feel hesitant, I felt hesitant in the past, more so than I do now. But the simplicity of what comes in the moments when I'm struggling the most, that's why I feel, even though I'm struggling, hang in there, because it's the simplicity. At that moment, when he said, do you want to drive the car or not? I felt like the Father was driving, switching. I'm going to sit in the passenger seat. You take the wheel now. And I'm busy fumbling and stumbling like, yeah, man, and I don't have my license. And, man, you want to drive or not? It was so clear. And so it's these small little nuggets that I've gotten over the years, since 2016 especially, that kept me, let's just say, kept me moving, or even alive, man, because I can't lie to you. It's so heavy. It's so heavy. And that's why people in this awakening need to be really careful what we're saying and how we're yapping and yelling at each other, because some people take this thing really seriously, even the flaws within themselves. because I don't want to go against the Father. I don't want to say something out of pocket. I don't want to lie or be some deceiver or everybody's so quick to say false prophets and all this. Man, I don't want none of that. I don't want any of that. But when Big Levi asked me to share this, it was like, okay, it's time to at least don't be afraid to say it. Because several years ago, I wouldn't tell nobody this. So I'll make it crystal clear to you guys what has been told to me in the jungle and out of the jungle is that you, Jonathan, you are the one. It's been so deep I'm like, how is it me? How I was even shown the Father never left us. We went through it. Looking from one perspective, sorry, it went off. From one perspective, it looks like the Father left us and we went through all this hell by ourselves. But He showed me that I didn't leave you, Jonathan. I'm you. It's so many deep things or crazy sounding things that's literally happened to me. And it's not all based around ayahuasca. The reason why I told you the whole story is starting back in 2010, 11-ish, when I was on the journey to write the book, to really say, I want to know God for myself. I've always loved God, but I wanted to see and feel for myself. No longer the pastor, no longer mama or grandma and all these people. No longer the Bible. I love the Bible, but at the same time, the Bible can become an idol, man. It's like, He showed me so many things, one thing He showed me, right, through this is, I was beating myself up so much, this is not in the Bible, this is not in the Bible, man. It's well, the stories that's in the Bible weren't in the Bible till they were put in the Bible. It was one little simple thing I heard, and then it was like my mom, it was like, the Bible has its place. It has its place, but everything is not based off the Bible. And I started to understand, I started thinking of so many things, and it was just, maybe I got to cut this because it was so profound, but it's too long to explain that one. It's too long to explain that one, but it's so much clarity I got, though. It's so much clarity I got through all these side nuggets, but I'm still uncomfortable with how to express these thoughts and these feelings. I'm uncomfortable with saying what I'm saying right now, and I'm right in the end. I'm jumping back and forth because I'm editing myself, to be honest with you. But the last one was just too much. 2019, right before the virus started, I was in Peru, and I haven't left China since then. But I left early because I felt like through ayahuasca, I cannot make it to the kingdom through this. I got to do it by myself, because what I saw is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I'm sorry, I cannot even begin to describe it. I was the soil of everything, and people were walking on top of me. But it wasn't in a bad way. I saw me being God Himself. Man, like I say, I can't believe I'm saying this. Maybe because I'm just in the room by myself, and this might not even get out, but I will send it to Big Levi. I will, because he asked me, and I have a little bit of, I can't say fear, but let's just use the word fear of what people would think when they hear a person say such things. But I'm telling you guys, the journey has been so beautiful, and it's been more beautiful than I can even express. I have to leave out so much, but I really did see the promised land, man. I really did. I really have been hearing from somebody. I leave space for me to be deceived. Okay. I leave space for me to be wrong. No problem. I leave space for me to get it wrong. No problem. I leave space for that. Like I said, that people say test the spirits and all that. I tested and I failed. But even though I failed, this is what keeps me going. Do I trust a dumb test that I'm doing It's like if you really are talking to God himself and he says, you can touch the sky. Like, are you going to test that if you really know for sure, 100%, he's talking to you face to face, he said touch the sky. You're going to believe that you can touch the sky. Well, mine is, I don't see him face to face, but he's saying, it's you. Now, if I tested these spirits and it says, right, you're correct, or no, you're wrong, both of them are not good enough in this situation. To test it and be right or to test it and be wrong, they both are the same, because I shouldn't test it at all. It's just like when I got up and I left California. I left everything behind and I went to a place I can't even speak the language. I didn't test it. When I did ayahuasca from the beginning, I never tested it. I didn't practice. The same thing with this. Testing the spirits might be written down and people say all these catchphrases and all these things. But I'm sorry, I'm just going to trust this until the end. And if I'm being judged and I say, he says, you got this wrong and all this, then I have to deal with a punishment I feel should be so deep, because I'm starting to believe that something has to be true. That's the scary part. I'm starting to believe that something, forget, that's still talking weak. I'm starting to believe, no, that's still weak. I believe what's been told to me. Just make it simple. I believe it. I don't know how it works. I don't know how it came. I don't know what the dynamics are. But I believe it. That don't mean that I don't have no power. I don't know nothing. I know nothing. I know a nothingness. But at the same time, I believe it. I just do. And then nothing has manifested itself. Nothing has shown me something. I haven't had a miracle or a blessing or a nugget that I can touch, that I can show somebody like, look at here, da 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 da. I don't have any of that. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with where I am. I'm struggling. I'm struggling. Every day I'm struggling. Because I want our people to get out of this hellhole so badly. I want us to no longer have all the deaths and people shooting and killings and hunger and people getting disease. I just want life as it should be. We don't need heaven, because I think we were not even supposed to be in heaven. He put us right here on earth. So where are we supposed to be? Here on earth, man. Heaven, he ain't put us there. So if we weren't put there, why should I be rushing to go to a place that wasn't for me? I believe right here on earth is where we should be, but just minus all the bad things, the hatred, the divisions, the knocking each other. Like, I want life as it should be, where there's a little bit of a problem even, but we work together to fix it through love. So my point is, I don't know how all this stuff will come together. I really don't. I don't know if I got it wrong. I don't know if I'm deceived. I don't know any of that. But I reached a point where instead of me constantly beating myself up, I'd rather just say 100% of the stuff that I heard has come to pass, except for this one. Except for this one. Except everything that I heard in these things, through the ayahuasca, or since I just left, forget the ayahuasca part, everything coming to China was great for me. I got people saying, go to Africa, this. I'm in China, man. And like what I get confused about, if we are the diaspora and we've been scattered to all four corners of the earth and we're the original people everywhere, why do we beat each other up about where we do go? All I know is I'm not sitting in America. America could be the promised land. It could be. But I'm in the wilderness right now by myself. Even though I got two people with me, I'm still by myself. I'm alone. Trust me. Nobody understands what I'm talking about. Like I said, the closest person to me called me schizophrenic and said, I don't believe nothing you say. Now that person didn't grow up with any kind of spiritual direction, but still, that still cuts. So my point in saying all of this is, what Big Levi gave me, it's like it gave me some baby wings and asked me to send them this. You don't know how important that is for me, even though I'm hesitant. This may be long, but I've been hesitant to do this because people will make fun of me. People will condemn me It's many people who I like listening to. Like I said, I don't follow anybody, but there's many people I like. But if they hear this, like all these, I don't care on one way. I don't know these people. It's just talking people over the computer. But I know I'll be knocked, and it's hurtful because I didn't ask for any of it. I just wanted to know the Father for myself. And since I heard his voice in 2013 on that sofa, I've always listened to everything God's told me, but that was different. That put me on the path of where I am today. And it's literally 10 years later, and I'm still living in China. And it's great. There are some negatives, of course. There's some. Living here during the pandemic and everything, people act like I'm the virus. But you know what? Of the 3% of negatives that suck, 97% of it, I feel the most comfortable. And I've been to 5 of the 7 continents. I feel the most comfortable where I've ever been in my life. And so all of this stuff came from listening to a voice. And it's totally different in LA, but I'm just as successful. I feel like I'm changing the world here, actually, because all these little kids, and I've interacted with close to 1 million people in my life as far as kids doing shows and all kinds of things. Of all those people, those children, those kids across the world, I've dealt with them. Especially here in China, 99% of them, they want my autograph. They want pictures. They love JJ, right? So when they're 20, when they're 30, they won't ever call somebody Hey Ran. Hey Ran is black. They won't ever call somebody Hey Ran or Waygar Ran. Waygar Ran means foreigner. Lao Ai. They won't call. That's not the first thing they'll say, because they had an interaction with not just me, with many people who's giving them their best, and I feel great about that. And it's already happening. I see it happen. People constantly give me all kind of reinforcements and bits and pieces of, wow, this is really working. And I didn't have a plan. I just listened to something, and I ignored the negative that even our own people say, because sometimes listen to these people. We're yelling on the corners at everybody. There's so many people. We get so arrogant because we got some digital numbers on some YouTube, and we think we talk down to everybody. Like, the arrogance is still there in us. I see it all the time because I need to identify with some people, because I am totally alone, totally isolated, totally in the wilderness for sure. But even though it's uncomfortable, I'm hanging in there, and I just decided to just believe the craziness that I hear. I can't do anything with it because it's not like that, but it's just still, why run from it? And what is actually, when you think about it, what is so bad we're hearing in your head that all these beautiful things, and I see them too. So I kind of give myself a break, even though I'm hard on myself now, because I feel I'm doing the right things. And this story is not about ayahuasca. It's really not. It's not about China. It's really not. It's really about, I literally listened without reading it from a Bible, without quoting somebody. I literally listened to something and left everything. Everything. Some of my most prized possessions is like, I don't want to get into it, it's already too long, but I left everything. And I lost so many things that's there in California and my hometown, all this stuff. I lost, all my things are gone. All of my years and years of video footage that's worth thousands and thousands, all that stuff is gone, but so what? So I'll wrap this up in the next couple minutes. All this audio, and if I make it into a video, Levi can use it, or whomever can use it, with respect, hopefully. If you think I'm crazy to hear that I am God himself, because I just got to say that out of my mouth, to just say I said it plain. Because that's what this is about. All the people who will hear it and have some kind of feeling about it, all I can say is, man, it is really the truth as I know it, man. I didn't put like I said, I didn't put anything extra on it. I actually took so much away from it. So that's what's been happening to me. And it's a great thing, but it's the most uncomfortable feeling because of my thoughts of what other people's thoughts are, because I have nobody to... It's like, going back to that Abraham story, like, what is it, 3 wise men? Some people came, right, and talked to him, right? Like, give him a boost. Nobody's coming to talk to me, right? Nobody, nothing. It's like Tammy in the jungle. Like, that didn't happen outside of the jungle where somebody show up and say, yo, man, you ain't crazy. I don't have any of that. So, I'm really thankful for Big Levi reaching out saying, you want to share this with the nation. I apologize that it's so long. I even apologize, even though it's long, I cut out so much because those details are great, but they're not really needed. But it still makes the picture better. And forgive my hesitation to just say things plain, because I have a little bit of anxiety about people judging me. Even though I don't know them, they don't know me, but it's still a feeling of what people would think. To say, hear a person say that's not doo-doo crazy or looking for some publicity, that God told me it's him. He's the one. He's God. He's the one. He's the beginning and the middle and the end. There's been so many things told to me that's so out of this world, man. But I got to live with it. And at some point, I'll figure out what this is all about. But I've enjoyed the struggle of listening and trusting something, even though I can't see it. It's like I've walked off a cliff and there's nothing underneath me. But I'm still walking. There's nothing underneath, but I'm still walking. I didn't fall yet. So, if anybody listened to this, I really appreciate it. I'm eternally grateful, because this is a little bit therapeutic, because I've been so isolated and alone with this for, like I said, specifically since 2016. So with that being said, shalom.